elevation, protocol, rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. This is the elevation, protocol, rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrendering myself with excellence, that's what I saw. This is the elevation, protocol, rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness, demanding excellence. No time for complacence. Act right or act out. The choice is always clear. My presence is my power. My standards draw the line here. Bridges to greatness, demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. My standards draw the line here. My standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls.
Hello, how y'all doing tonight? Welcome to This and That. We're on our first Monday night. Well, not our first Monday night, but the first Monday night where we're about as ready as we can be. We've got a lot of information for y'all for tonight. Wasn't expecting it to be like this, but we got a lot of information for you guys for tonight. We're going to try to see how much of it we're going to get through. But I've got all the latest. We are still dealing. We had some technical issues again. And just as sure as I thought we had it, the technical issues are happening again. So we're dealing with, we're going to be probably throughout the rest of this week dealing with some issues, but we're going to get that squared away. And once we get that squared away, then you'll see us with some 4K high definition. And I'll give you guys some updates on that as soon as we get it. We're live 7 nights a week. And we do not let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time. We're about 10 minutes late tonight, 13 minutes late tonight. So, especially during daylight savings times, we don't always start on time. But guys, to like and subscribe, and then also take the time to hit those notification buttons, as well as the go ahead and take a look at the membership. Now, I know that tomorrow's show should be there, but I got to double check tonight, so I'm going to make sure that it's up there. So if I do post it between tonight and tomorrow, Steven, make sure that you hit the notification buttons for tomorrow night, tomorrow after you wake up, kind of thing. And I'm going to try to get Wednesday up there as well. That way we have Tuesday and Wednesday up there for the rest of the week. And then all of the rest of the week is already up there. We got a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we're working on, and everything runs into one another. But you will see a large quantity coming soon, a large quantity of shows being put in place, where you guys kind of know exactly where we're planning on headed. But our Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays are typically last minute discussions, because it's based off of what we're dealing with right now. Because I want to give y'all real time information, like up to date real time information. He said he don't even validate, so you go, he validated for you. Well, I was sitting over here thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna have a smooth show. Man, 9 o'clock this morning, they're like, oh, we got a network outage. I said, son of a bitch. I was just sitting over here so disappointed in them. But today we were supposed to be talking about the Strait. And the reason why, I'm like, yeah, this is like a first, because I was moments there and I was excited. Then I was like, no, it's gonna be almost a bit of the same, but we're gonna start seeing some improvements. So I appreciate the patience for those of you that's been riding the waves with us for this longest period of time. But we're going to start seeing some improvements coming soon. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that some improvements were coming up. We typically cover 7 nights a week. Every night of the week, we got something different. Sundays is our questions and comments from the fans. So I appreciate for all those individuals that came in yesterday and put their 2 cents in. Michael, Steve, and Steven. Michael, you guys were very insightful yesterday. I really love that. That was actually very bold for you guys to get out there and just really put it out there. And then we had Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. What we got going on today's Monday, we have business and politics, where Monday we're going to be talking about, oh man, hey, I really appreciate you, man. You guys are like my favorites right now. I'm telling you, it's I'm like, I got to get up. I got to go do this podcast. That's like the thing to do. Matter of fact, I got 4 or 5 different alarms for everything except for starting on time, but getting to this podcast. I'm always here to get it off and popping, you know what I mean? So I'm actually looking right now in a second computer, because I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to do with TikTok. And I haven't heard back from some of the people that I reach out to about streaming on both sides, because I definitely can't do TikTok from here on this laptop and then another laptop at the same time. So I'm going to be trying to see, how do I get them over here at the same time. So I'm going to be trying to figure that stuff out. And then I might have to do 2 different laptops, and then just have kind of like tell y'all what TikTok is saying, and vice versa, so that we kind of get a little bit of information about what's going on with TikTok. But I need to get me a computer that's going to put a lot more stuff up there. So I'm going to figure this out. But and then I'm still waiting on TikTok to try to give me a stream key, because what's going on right now, I really need a stream key. And that's really what slowed me down with getting that. So as we get everything set up with that, we're going to be letting you guys know what's up. But Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, like I said, business and politics. And Monday, we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. I can tell you before we get in deep on today's topic, that with the Strait being locked down, and all of y'all that's been following it knows that with the Strait being locked down, that you're going to start seeing the stocks go down for oil and oil tankers. So your DHT stocks, your International Seaway stock, your Chevron, your Shell, your ExxonMobil stocks all went down. Johnson & Johnson stock went down. And that's fantastic for anybody that's doing buy and holds, because these are dividend paying stocks. And if you're buying into those stocks right now, while the market has dipped over 5% on some of these things, now is the time for you to put your money up there so that you can start seeing some results. That would be a fantastic upswing. Now, once everything settles down, because I mean, there's only two directions it's going to go, and we're going to be talking about that today. Either they're going to resolve this situation in 48 hours, or they're going to be blowing everybody up in 72 hours. Either way, while the stocks are down, now's the time to put as much as you can available without shortening yourself, and put it up there so that when things start to recover, because they always do, when things start to recover, you will start seeing massive growth in your portfolios. So when we're talking about this, we're not talking about this from as much of a political standpoint as we are going to be discussing this from a clearly recognized impact on your finances and your investment opportunities. So I know that there's a lot of left and right side guys that want to come up here and try to, like, debate politics. And by all means, you can come in here with it. But I am going to tell you that I'm not going to be able to satisfy your personal desires for trying to make Democrats seem like they're idiots, or making Republicans seem like they're overbearing, or whatever the case may be. Because at the end of the day, it's all about how it directly impacts your finances. It's not about rooting for the blue team or rooting for the red team. So pay attention to that thing. And then we're going to be talking about on Tuesday. Tomorrow we're going to be discussing about, and I already got the scripts ready for you guys. We're going to be discussing about how special education is going to start being negatively impacted in ways that we weren't expecting. And then we usually on Tuesdays beyond that, we be talking about ways to invest, make, save, and invest money, budget money, strategize new ways. Like when I was telling Stephen about how to rotate out bills, and when you're doing things with your credit cards, when you have a decent credit card availability and you're dealing with the current consistent income, and you're like, well, let's put a few bills on the credit cards, and then use the extra cash and put it onto the brokerage account, and then take the next paycheck and pay down the credit card, and kind of just roll it over like that, where you're benefiting from the cost of doing business by leaning on this line of credit to give you extra money so that you can put onto your brokerage account. And I know some people are going to say, well, the opportunity cost, because I was supposed to put the formulas up there for you, and I'm going to be doing that soon. I promise you guys I'm going to get it in there. But when you think about the opportunity cost of, like, well, a 22% credit card, or and versus a like 18% brokerage account, you're like, oh yeah, but I'm in a loss. And it's like, well, hold on, think about what you're doing here, because you're getting these stock prices at such a low price right now that it's kind of worth it to pay an extra $24 for the next 2 months to to see that massive spike in the next 2 months. When the interest rates are going down and the values of the shares is going up, then you're like, man, I should have bought it when I had the chance. You don't have to experience that if you're getting on it right now. So I tell you guys, think about the opportunity, the long-term opportunity cost, because anytime you grab a share that is showing 20% right now today, as long as the company doesn't go under, and as long as you don't sell that share, be at that percent realm. So getting it while it's low is more important than worrying about the 22% interest per year. The $24. I give somebody $100 so that I can put 10 stacks on the 20%, because that's guaranteeing me 2,000. The difference is immense, because I'm only going to pay that $50 one time, but I'm going to be getting that 2,000 forever. You gotta make some sacrifices. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that I tell you guys about on a regular basis. Then on Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that we can live and potentially invest in, and have international savings, international spending, international living. And it is all about working on how you're going to get what you're trying to get done for your end goal. Now, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we give you guys information about your personal development, your self-improvement, relationship topics, negotiations, socializations, brand, because all of these things in your personal life negatively impacts your ability to keep the money that you made, because at the end of the day, your decisions cost you money. Everything from what you want to eat every day to how you interact with other people all cost you money. There isn't a free decision in your life. There isn't. You think of one, and I can think of how it costs you money. Because even taking a nap can cost you money if money's not making money for you. Too much time in the bathroom can cost you money if you're not getting paid to be in that bathroom. You understand? So we work on all of those things, and then we start talking about things like promotions, raises, severance packages, retirement funds, and then after we give you all of that information, because your professional life impacts your personal life impacts your professional life, and vice versa. We definitely end up giving you guys all the rest of the information you need to start paying attention to mapping out your 20-year plan. Where do you plan on being in the next 20 years, 30 years? And how much do you think that'll cost? What do you think that looks like? Because if you think about what it would cost today, and then you do that 4% inflation, which is 0.04 if you multiplied it, and then you add yourself another like 3 or 4% taxation, because taxation is always going to be a bummer on your income. Then you're looking at probably multiplying your or dividing your current standard of living by 0.08, which would then show you the back end number of what you would need to live the lifestyle that you have right now. Now, let's say that you wanted to increase the lifestyle that you have right now by another $10,000 or $20,000 a year. Now, if you wanted to do that, then you would be taking that new number, and then you would be doing those same calculations, and you will come to find that you might need an extra 100 or 200,000 extra dollars a year. And recognizing that depending on how you go with your investments, you will see you will be paying taxes on some things and not being able to avoid taxes on other things, and getting tax deductions on other things, where the cost of doing business is the cost of doing business, and you work your way up to a position where you don't have to worry about where your money's coming from. And that's one of the things that's really important in life. So I want to make sure that you guys pay attention to these things, because everything that's happening right now is happening outside of your control. And what do I tell you guys at the end of the show every night is that you must change the things in your life that you can control and navigate around the things in your life that you cannot control. So today we're going to be talking about something you can't control, and we're going to then discuss how we're going to navigate it. So if I ask you guys a specific question, what would it take to cripple the global economy? Let's walk through a scenario like that. April 18th, 2026, I was going through it heavily, and Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGCs, had just shut down the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical choke point for oil. And this isn't a threat, it is a declaration that the artery that we've been talking about for the last month is holding nearly a third of the world's seaborne oil is now under Iranians' control. So pay attention to this. Now, remember I told you guys last week, Monday, that President Trump said that he was going to shut it down, right? Well, in response to that, President Trump pushes the world to the brink, because a total U.S. Navy blockade happened, sealing off Iran from the sea. And just moments ago, when we were doing this evaluation, recognizing this standoff, the blockade was tested. So you thought everything is going up. It is going up. Moments ago, right before the show, food shortages. I don't know about shortages yet, but I know that the prices are going to skyrocket. We might see certain products that are going to be shortages in certain states around the country. Certain products that are in high demand from offshore shipping, that we're going to start seeing that. But it's not just going to be food shortages. Every product that gets shipped in from China, every product that gets shipped in from somewhere in Asia is going to be impacted. The fuel that is being shipped in from overseas is going to take longer to get here, which means that the fuel that's already here is going to have a price increase. We're going to see a lot of that stuff. Now, earlier today, the U.S. Navy fired upon and they seized a massive Iranian cargo ship that dared to challenge the American cargo, the corridor. So the we just discussed this earlier today. Like these guys were like, no, nobody's getting through. And Iran is like, bullshit. Earlier today, they let it rip. So this is going to be a lot of information about how the regional standoff could ignite into the next world war minute by minute. And we will be witnessing a strange equilibrium between Iran blockading the world's energy and America blockading the blockaders. So the stakes couldn't be higher as the two strategies of maritime coercion collide in the Persian Gulf with the global economy hanging in the balance. Is that every product delivered by truck will go up. Oh, you dang right. Every product being delivered by truck is going up. And then everything that's being flown in, that's going to have an issue too, because the fuel for the planes is going to cost more. Your plane tickets are going to go up. The cost of travel is going to cost more. You know, it's going to hit a lot of different places in a lot of different ways. It's not going to be like direct, oh my God, I can't get my great value rice. But no, it's going to be a lot of stuff is going to cost more all the way around. And we're going to see some residual damage from this over time, because typically we have an increase for the summertime anyway. And then we have that, then we still have yet another increase on top of it. Now, we can see a massive decline in cost after this settles down, typically in August and September. But it's going to be, that's a long time from now. It's like a whole to see that decline. Steven says, get your food stash filled up. If you didn't get your food stash filled up before, you need to get your food stash filled up now. You need to go get it before there ain't nothing left to go get. Now, the world is holding its breath right now to see what's going on, and the two blockades are in effect, where a geopolitical chokehold that could paralyze international trade and spark a global recession has already taken place. So we have on the one side Iran's IRGC that has asserted what is called strict management over the Strait of Hormuz, where the narrow waterway that serves as the jugular vein of the global energy market, they're taking hold of it. Michael talking about some MREs. MREs are inexpensive, bro. Those are the MREs are far more expensive than getting a bunch of mixed packs of ramen noodles, bro. Since we're not dealing with a power shortage right now, I would say that in lieu of MREs, you should probably make best friends with Top Ramen and Ramen Noodles, because those are the types of things that outstands the test of time, and you can put the bad boys on the shelf as long as you're not dealing with a flood. Your noodles is not going nowhere. You know what I mean? But yeah, MREs are good because MREs are like the closest thing to a hot meal that you can get without requiring anything to heat it up. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to tell you. One pack of MRE is $3.60, and one pack of ramen noodles is 30 cents. So you can you can eat like 12 packs of ramen noodles for the same price as one pack of MREs. And the only difference between the value of an MRE and the value of a ramen noodle is that the MREs does not require heat and ramen noodles do. So as long as you have ramen noodles and fire, whether it's an electric stove or a gas stove, you can still heat up your ramen noodles. And you got a microwave or whatever, you can still heat up your ramen noodles. But you know, $3.60 for an MRE, like I would get that if I was dealing with, I would at least get one or two cases of MREs to store in case of a power outage, in case of like natural disaster. That's what I would get. But when we're expecting like the economy's going to be fine, it's just, you know, as far as like power and water and everything, but like everything else is gonna suck. I would lean more towards ramen noodles instead. Is I got progressive soup stacked high. MREs ain't where it's at for me. I agree because progressive soup is like $1 and some change or $2 and some change, depending on where you go and whether or not they have it on a rollback thing at Walmart, right? So you can buy 1 or 2 cans of Progresso soup and 1 bag or 2 bags of MRE. So like 1 or 2 cans of Progresso soup and 1 or 2 cans of ramen noodles for the same price as 1 pack of MREs. And you can get more full off of that than what you would off the MRE. So it's like, opportunity cost, financial cost. I could probably buy 300 cans of Progresso soup and 50 packs of the 12-pack of ramen noodles and spend less money than what I would buying 2 cases of MREs. I'm just saying. Main meal and a snack. Well, I'll eat MRE over top ramen. But you're like 70 years old, bro. You're like 72 years old. So like that would make sense. You're used to using calculators with sunlight instead of calculators with batteries in them. So I completely understand, bro. You're from the old school, old school. You know what I mean? But the rest of us, I don't know. I done had MREs now. I love them. They're good. They're good. I just the price, bro. He said Roman can heat off coffee pot water, or if you locked up iron water. Oh, you talk about making goulash and stuff. You talk about if you're locked up. Yeah, you're right. You can make a cup. This 36-ounce cup of coffee could make me a really good bowl of ramen noodles. But in all fairness, that same hot water could make the MREs good as well. The economy is not fine. Well, when I said the economy was fine, I said as referred to as like we're not going to experience a power outage over the next 6 months. Well, it's not expected. You know, water's not going to get cut off. You know what I mean? So when I was saying like the economy, what our resources here in America are not going to like plummet to like going 50 miles for a bucket of water kind of thing. So I like jerky in a bag today for 3/4 of a pound was $25. Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Stuff's going up. MREs are highly valuable, so I'm not going to say don't get them, but I am going to say that because of the cost of MREs, there are other things that the younger generation is used to that we can go and grab that does what MREs do, because MREs is something that you got water stack too. That damn right. The MREs is something that ramen noodles can do, because the idea of MREs is that they don't expire and you can put them up on the shelf and they last for a long period of time, right? So ramen noodles, they don't expire. You can put them up on the shelf and they can last for a longer period of time. But the difference between the two is that 1 bag of ramen noodles is 30 cents and 1 bag of MRE is $3.60. So you can get, like I said, 12 packs of ramen noodles for 1 bag of MRE. You can eat 12 times for $3.60, or you can eat once for $3.60. You got to ask yourself whether your preference for flavor or whatever, which one is more effective for you. And that's just that's what we talk about now. After a confusing 24-hour period where the Strait was declared completely open, which didn't last very long, the IRGC would have slammed the door shut again on April 18th. So their message would be clear that the Strait won't fully reopen until the United States backs down. On the other side, the United States, under the resolute and often unpredictable leadership of President Donald Trump, has responded with an overwhelming force of a full naval blockade of Iran's entire coastline that is in effect enforced by the formidable might of the United States Navy Central Command. This is crazy now, y'all. This is crazy. It said dehydrated can make deer jerky really good. A dehydrator can make deer jerky really good, but you know what makes deer meat really good, barbecuing that bad boy. You get you some hickory wood chips and some honey. Some folks is like, yeah, it's gamey. But I didn't have to drive all the way out to the meat market to go get it. Pluck that bad boy out the backyard. Next will be boots on the ground. We're 48 hours away from boots on the ground, bro. We're 48 hours away from boots on the ground because the 22nd is on Wednesday. We are the night of the 20th, the morning of the 21st. The boots on the ground is the next step. Every ship, no matter its flag or its cargo, attempting to reach an Iranian port is being challenged and turned back or seized. The American goal is simple: sever Iran's economic lifeline, choke off its oil exports, and block access for its trade partners. So nobody is being allowed in the port of Iran, and nobody is being allowed out. It is that serious. Now, this dangerous stalemate wouldn't just be a regional squabble. It would be a culmination of a shadow war exploding into the open. And the crisis would have begun on February 28, 2026, with the stunning series of joint U.S. and Israeli airstrikes resulted in the assassination of Iranian's long reigning supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. And this act would trigger an immediate and ferocious response from Tehran. And Iran would unleash missiles and drone attacks against Israeli and U.S. bases, and most critically weaponized its control over the Strait of Hormuz. And the IRGC would immediately declare the strait closed to international ships, launching a campaign of harassment. So in the initial days, one could imagine 21 confirmed attacks on merchant ships, sending shockwaves through the global shipping industry. Sea mines would be laid, turning the waterway into a no-go zone, and the world would watch in horror as the global economy teetered over what was going to happen next. Oh yes, this is a global event of epic proportions in short span. Now, a fragile 2-week ceasefire that is almost up, brokered by Pakistan and initiated on April 8th, might offer a brief glimmer of hope. Didn't last for long. During this truce, the United States would pause its strikes and Iran would halt its counterattacks, allowing limited traffic through the strait. But this peace would likely shatter under mutual accusations. The United States might continue seizing ships for sanction violations, while Iran patrols could be accused of harassing vessels. Now, the standoff is back, and it's more dangerous than ever. The IRGC has resumed its tight control, forcing the few approved vessels through designated corridors to navigate around potential minefields. This diplomatic whiplash, opening, then closing the strait, is seen by analysts as evidence of a power struggle within Iran's leadership. So while diplomats signal openness, the hardline IRGC, which prioritizes military leverage, appears to have the final say. They are determined to use the strait as a bargaining chip to force the United States to lift its crushing naval blockades. President Trump, for his part, has publicly decreed this as blackmail and vowed not to back down. So this isn't just a blockade anymore. It is a battle of will, where the to blink could face a catastrophic defeat. You and I both know from Shark Tank, Donald Trump is not one to blink. So How do we get to this particular breaking point? This crisis didn't emerge in a vacuum. It was ignited by a single explosive event on February 28, 2026, where a coordinated U.S. Israeli airstrike that uh, decapitated the Iranian regime by killing the supreme leader Ali Khamenei. So since this moment occurred, a long simmering shadow war boiled over into direct high stakes warfare. And the strikes would be the culmination of escalating tension following years of Israeli action against Iranian proxies and earlier joint strikes. So the final trigger appeared to be the failure of the last ditch nuclear negotiation in February, which President Donald Trump dismissed, and a series of large scale domestic protests in Iran that weakened the regime's internal legitimacy. Tehran's response was immediate and very furious. So, in a move that sent tremors through the global markets, Iran declared the Strait of Hormuz the checkpoint we've experienced that holds 20 to 30% of us talk, because on March 2nd, the IRGC made the threat terrifyingly real, confirming that the closure and unleashing a wave of asymmetric warfare against commercial ships was going to happen. So, in days that followed, the staggering 21 separate merchant ships weren't attacked, they were just gone, right? And the message was unambiguous: if Iran can't export its oil, then no one will. Yeesh. And the IRGC strategy wouldn't be a conventional blockade, which would invite a massive direct military response. So instead of Iran uh, deploying its well honored doctrine of asymmetric naval warfare, a strategy designed to exploit the Strait's geography turned out to be its resolution. That's where all the extra money came from. This is where the fight Iran turns into disadvantages of strengths between the parties that pass through the Strait and Iran's ability to control it. The IRGC Navy benefits from extremely short lines of communication with major ports like Bandar Abbas, just kilometers from shipping lines. And from this close range, they'd launch their Mosquito fleet. This fleet is a vast inventory of small, fast attack crafts that can be hidden in coastal caves, emerging like invisible sea dragons to strike and disappear. Armed with anti-ship missiles and torpedoes, they would swarm targets, overwhelming them with sheer number. And this guerrilla warfare at sea is supplemented by a formidable arsenal. Anti-ship cruise and ballistic missiles could be fired from over 1,000 miles inland, which aids them in their ability to control the waterways from the land. And Iran would not ask, they would also make the waters themselves a weapon, where the IRGC would begin laying extensive minefields, not just with large ships, but using their swarms of small boats, making detection and clearance a nightmare. And they deploy a variety of mines, from simple floating ones to sophisticated lying dormant on the seabed. The result would be chaos. Terrified shipping companies would suspend all operations. Maritime traffic would plummet. Over 150 ships dropped anchor, unwilling to run the gauntlet. Soon, traffic would drop to virtually zero. And during this time, the global economy will feel the shocks almost instantly. Brent crude oil, which had been below $70 a barrel, is skyrocketing. Prices surged past $115, and at one point peaked above $120 a barrel, triggering what the International Energy Agency is calling the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. quota, a major LNG exporter would be forced to declare force majeure on all its exports. The world's economic engine would begin to sputter, starve of its most essential fuel. Now, as the global economy from Iran's actions, the White House would have prepared its response, and it wasn't going to be a limited response. Tit for tat retaliation seems to be what's going on around here. So instead of President Trump uh, doing little or nothing about it, instead, he would authorize a sweeping and unprecedented action of economic warfare. So a full naval blockade of Iran's entire coastline is why that came about. So officially confirmed by U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, the objective is brutally simple: seal Iran off from the sea. That's what we're expecting. Okay. Now, the order would target not just Iranian ships, but vessels from all nations trying to enter or leave Iran's port. This is almost like a sea or coastal line quarantine, right? So the strategic aim will be to cripple Iran's ability to trade, especially its oil exports, to partners like China and force total economic isolation. So if they're and you got to remember, they already blew up the bridges, so they can't drive out. Okay, and since they can't drive out, the only way that they can leave is by helicopter, plane, or by sea. So now the seas are blocked, and if the bombing was done successfully in the first wave of attacks, a lot of the ways that they could fly out has probably been damaged or destroyed as well. So they're running out of ways to leave the country. And the ocean was one of the best ways, and the United States has blocked that off. So within a breathtaking 36 hours, the United States Navy has executed the order with ruthless efficiency. Now, on a side note, with all of these soldiers over there, anybody who's investing in real estate investment trusts, you're going to see the shares have gone down significantly, which is beneficial for you because dividends have maintained the same. When those troops that survived what's going on get returned back to America and start paying their rent again, you're going to start seeing real estate investment trusts increasing the share value. You'll experience growth on the stock while benefiting from the dividend investment. Likewise, for those individuals that are betting on the cost of oil, while nothing's going anywhere, the share value of all of the oil share stocks have gone down by at least 5% or more. And shipping containers have gone down about the same, right? Now's the best time to buy into that stuff because after this is over, it's going to go up another 15 to 20%, and you're going to see massive growth. And those are also dividend paying stocks as well. And the shares have not been impacted yet. So now's the time to buy and hold for the expectation of the bounce back. Anybody who wasn't thinking about it, just hypothetically take a look at it and see what you think about it, right? A formidable cordon of American warships led by guided missile destroyers like the USS Spruance, that's weird, would establish patrol zones along Iran's coast. Now, the blockade's effectiveness would be immediate. In its first 24 hours, the Navy achieves 100% interdiction rates, okay? Redirecting multiple merchant vessels. President Trump's rhetoric is but as a necessary response to Iranian blackmail. So he's making this clear that the blockade was non-negotiable and would stay until Iran agrees to a full transaction addressing America's grievances. Chief among them is its nuclear programs. So no more Mr. Nice Guy is what Mr. Trump is declaring. Warnings of further escalations if Iran didn't accept the deal. With about 36 hours left on the clock, because as of now, we're in the 21st, and situation resolves itself on the either by peace or by war. It is going to go one way or another over the next 36 hours, right? Now, the military posture is and will be just as aggressive. So the United States Navy has begun a massive redeployment of assets. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group would already be on station, and the USS George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group would be rerouted from the Atlantic, and amphibious assault ships like the USS Tripoli and the USS Boxer carrier of thousands of Marines and the F-35B jump jets would converge on this exact area in Iran, where the blockade tactics would be methodical. So if you imagine, I just named 4 or 5 of some of the biggest ships that are carrying several thousand troops on each ship, several thousand planes on each ship, probably quite a few tanks as well. It's about to go down, right? Any vessel approaching the zone would first get a radio warning. CENTCOM would likely report initial success just through these communications alone, verifying that some of the people that are warned to turn back actually do. However, for ships that don't comply, the rules of engagement would be unforgiving. The next step is disablement. If you did not respond to the verbal warning, United States warships would be authorized to fire upon a non-compliant vessel's propulsion system. Following that, elite teams of United States Marines would board and seize the ship. This strategy of blockading the blockaders creates a paradoxical and volatile situation. So while Iran attempts to choke off the global energy, the United States simultaneously is choking off Iran. And I know that a lot of people are sitting over here thinking that they are double fisting each other in a political warfare scenario, but nobody is receiving gratification from this. Okay, it is a high stakes gamble. The United States has the military capacity, but President Trump would reportedly be wary of the political risk of American casualties. It is highly probable whenever we send people over, instead of letting that man use the money to do it, I put all of my blame on the Supreme Court, because once they stopped the United States from using tariffs to control political disagreements, that is kind of when it all went south. Because if all it was that, Iran was going to be hit with like 500% tariffs, they would have almost made no money from the United States, and that kind of would have shut down a lot of stuff, right? That would have shut down a lot of stuff. So for Iran, though, the blockade is going to be an act of war. So for the United States, it's the ultimate application of pressure. The stage is set now for a direct confrontation. And the difference between the way things were a couple months ago versus the way things are now, the person that wants to kick your ass is on your doorstep now with all his homeboys. Instead of saying I'm on my way, they are already there waiting on high noon so that they can tee it off. This is way different than the way things were before. The stage is way different now. So the situation here is changing by the hour, and we're trying our best to follow along with it and let you guys know what's going on with it at least once a week. Give you quite a few updates at the top of the hour and let you know what we found out, and to make sure that you guys have the absolute latest analysis on the crises like this. I got to ask you guys to make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and enable those notification buttons. We are tracking the largest quantity of the developments that's going on over there, and from the naval movements to back channel negotiations, to bring you the information that you need to know exactly where you're going to put your money as things move forward. Now, the fragile Pakistan brokered ceasefire of April 8th was meant to de-escalate, but would quickly fray. And while Iran allowed limited traffic through Hormuz, the United States blockade on Iranian ports would remain, a move Tehran would see as a violation. And this diplomatic whiplash, with Iran declaring the Strait open on the 17th, only to shut it down on the 18th all over again, would set the stage for the confrontation on the night of April 19th, which was yesterday. So the vessels at the center of the storm is the MV Tulska, a real Iranian flagged counter ship or container ship. That's what it is, a shipping container ship. And in this scenario, repurposed and attempting to defy the American blockade. It's detected by the guided missile destroyer USS Sprunas on patrol in the Gulf of Oman. So what follows is a tense 6-hour standoff. The USS Sprunas would begin with repeated radio warnings, ordering the Tauska to turn back. The Iranian captain would refuse. The American destroyer would hail the vessel again and again, but the Tauska would steam ahead. After 6 hours, the American commander would give the order to escalate, and the USS Sprouts, that's a hard name to pronounce. I don't know who named this ship, but this ship would fire not at the crew, but at the ship's propulsion and steering, crippling the Tauska and leaving it adrift in international waters. Now, with the vessel neutralized, the U.S. Marines from the amphibious assault ships with USS Tripoli would be dispatched to board and seize the Tauska. Now, the seizure would be a textbook display of naval power. Under the cover of darkness, helicopters would likely deliver teams of heavily armed Marines onto the cargo ship, and everybody's landing vastly on the deck. The boarding would be swift, meeting little resistance. By morning, the American flag would be flying over the seized Iranian vessel. So it is now a prisoner of war. The reaction from both sides is going to be swift, because President Trump would hail the seizure as a success, reinforcing his hardline stance. In Tehran, the response would be outrage. Iran's Joint Military Command would condemn the seizure as an act of maritime piracy and a violation of the international laws. They'd vow a response, putting the IRGC's Mosquito fleet on high alert, and in the hours following, reports would flood in of IRGC fast boats harassing other commercial vessels. Iranian's foreign minister is declaring the seizure has shown Washington's disingenuousness and threatened to pull out of upcoming peace talks in Pakistan. But you're not willing to give America what they want anyway. So, I mean, threatening to not cooperate when you already don't want to cooperate, you can't make that kind of suggestion and assume that that's going to compel somebody else to cooperate with you. Now, that's just my observation of this. But Iran's state-run Tasnim news agency would even report that Tehran had sent a wave of drones towards the United States ships involved. Now, the seizure of the Talisker would be a microcosm of the entire conflict, where a clash between Iranian defiance and American determination uh, meet each other head to head. And it would shatter the last remnants of the ceasefire and push the two nations perilously closer to a wider war. Now, the dual blockades in this scenario would send a devastating shockwave through the global economies. And that's what we're talking about today. The International Energy Agency has characterized it as the greatest global emergencies, greatest global energy uh, security challenge in history, where they're running out of resources. So that everything is starting to become on high alert. And the single largest disruption to the oil market ever recorded forever. Like nothing has been this bad, according to past reports. Now, the most immediate impact is going to be on the oil prices. That's going to be where we're feeling it at the pump first and foremost. But it's actually going everywhere, as we discussed earlier in tonight's show, because it is not just the oil prices. It's going to be the cost of gas. It's going to be the cost of transportation. It's going to be the cost of transportation of goods and services. So the market would be gripped by extreme volatility. So when the crisis first erupted, Brent crude oil could spike from $70 a barrel to over $115 a barrel, even touching $126 a barrel. And when the brief ceasefire was announced, the prices might have plunged back into the low 90s for a brief moment. But as soon as the Strait reclosed, prices rebounded. And analysis at the Dallas Fed have modeled scenarios where the prolonged closure could push oil prices between $110 and $130 a barrel, putting immense pressure on the global growth. Now, this energy crisis acts like a sudden massive tax on the world, but the pain wouldn't be distributed equally. The biggest losers would be the major importing economies in Asia and other nations like China, Japan, South Korea, and India. They are heavily reliant on the Gulf oils and LNG. Europe would also be hit hard. However, developing nations in Africa and Asia, as well as Latin America, would be the most vulnerable, where the surge in energy and food prices could trigger social unrest. The crisis would extend far beyond oil because the Strait of Hormuz is a critical artery for other commodities above and beyond oil as well. Approximately 1/3 of the world's key chemical fertilizers pass through the strait. With shipments disrupted, fertilizer prices could jump 20 to 30%, creating a cascading crisis for global agriculture. And if the fertilizer is going up 20 to 30%, you can understand that vegan food is going to go up 20 to 30%. Hold on. Steven, headache for real. There it is. He said, I don't live it. I didn't live it, but I would imagine it was worse in the 70s. No, well, technically, what they're calling what's going on right now, they're saying that it's worse now than what it was before. It's not as bad as it was in 1942, 1950. It's not as bad as it was in 1951 through 1960. So after the I want to say the Second World War and the First Civil War, in those areas, things might have been worse because they didn't have so much technology and they didn't have so many extra resources easily accessible. But when you start talking about um, the lower 50% of American population that is already living paycheck to paycheck before these inflated costs, and when I tell you that fertilizer prices could jump 20 to 30%, meaning that crops will cost potentially an extra 20 to 30%, which would likely see a swing where fruits and vegetables, apples, oranges, lettuce, stuff to that effect will go up in addition to gas prices and buying like other commodities. um, it's not just the grains of rice and stuff that's being impacted right now. It's like everything that we eat, because with fertilizer going up 20 to 30%, you can imagine that the cattle that eats the grass is going to cost more money as well. And then that means that meat's going to cost more money, as expensive as meat is right now. So it has a wider spread, long-term impact. And the people who are going to get hurt by it the most are the people who make less than $75,000 to $125,000 feel discomfort. But the people that are making less than $150,000 a year, the ones that are making less than $75,000 a year, the ones that are making less than $50,000 a year in every state around the United States, they're going to be hurt the worst, right? Because everything they can possibly buy, food wise, bare necessities wise, is going to be skyrocketing in price. And that's not something that they can control. And since they didn't buy it in bulk before prices went up, buying in bulk right now is reasonable so that you can get everything that needs to be gotten before it runs out, and also before the prices go up a second time. But the problem that you're going to have now is that it is way more than what it would have been if you would have stockpiled on the shit in March, when all you had to deal with was just an increase in some costs in some places, because there was some oil passing through 3 weeks ago, right? This is the consequences of delayed action. Now, other industries are also going to suffer. The Gulf region accounts for a huge portion of the global supply of sulfur and aluminum. So the distribution would create bottlenecks in global supply chains. Shipping companies would face nightmares, and the few still willing to operate in the region would add massive war risk surcharges. Many would be forced to reroute around the Cape of Good Hope, adding weeks of time and enormous fuel costs to every voyage. While most of the world suffers, a few could benefit. Energy exporting nations outside of the Gulf, like the United States, might gain. Some Gulf exports, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, can partially bypass the strait with pipelines, but these can't replace the massive volumes now stranded. Even in the United States, one analysis suggests that the shock could lead to nearly a percent rise in core inflation and a significant drop in the GDP, a burden falling heaviest on the lower income households, which is why I talk about this, is because it really impacts the average poor folks, not just the poor. The poor impact dramatically the working class. Is the best. It's going to feel like shit coming soon. So as warships face off, a parallel war would be fought in the media and in diplomatic back channels. And it is a war of threats and ultimatums marked by deep mistrust. Ah, special shout out to Millie. He said, this is why Yemen has to be secured before any operations in the Strait of Hormuz. Uh, do you believe that the United States should go and secure Yemen, or do you believe that Iran should go and secure Yemen? That's an interesting observation. There was discussions, and I didn't squeeze it in here. I should have, but there was discussions that there were some ceasefires that were happening in other areas where some of the other nearby proxy war individuals were having some peace talks with Israel and Pakistan and other such things in areas where they were discussing retracting from conflicts from the Iranian side. But nobody's having that discussion with the United States. My main observation, and I've been talking about this for a number of weeks, is they haven't done this yet. But the clear observation that if they choose to do so, Trump already said a while back, blowing up the major power plant. And if you blow up all the power plants, they don't have power. You've already blown up the bridges, they can't get resources. You've blocked off the water, they can't get anything else. So whatever's there is all they got left. And countries exported goods will find themselves in a position. It's going to be a long standoff. It's going to be a quarantine style scenario. And it's going to be a long standoff, months of standoff. But the population will run out of resources. And the more it runs out of resources, the more it starts becoming an area of unrest. But that's if they take the semi-aggressive approach. If they take the full-on aggressive approach and just kind of conquer the country, like I told you before, when we start talking about like World War I and World War II kind of attacks, you start blowing up hospitals and schools, bro. Like you're wiping this nation off of the planet, and you have a large military force off the coast. So whether or not they conquer Yemen holds no bounds to whether or not they eliminate the probability for this country to succeed after this discussion is over, after this conflict is over. It all depends on what is able to be destroyed that the United States doesn't want to have to rebuild in order to continue to control the oil after the discussions are over. But when you start talking about complete annihilation, in that observation, it is clear that if they really just did the worst possible attacks, the situation would resolve itself very quickly. Just not in a way where the United States would be able to utilize Iran the way they would hope to utilize Iran. The puppeteer design is not going to work if you blow the whole thing up, right? Because I believe the U.S. needs to secure Yemen due to the drone and anti-ship missiles threats of the Houthis. Those are the guys. The Houthis were the ones that were doing some negotiations over the last 2 days. That would be a constant threat to lines of logistics, and we cannot go around the horn every time. Yeah, you do make a good point on that. I would have to agree that would probably be a very good strategy. I think one of the reasons why they haven't tried to go for it yet is because they didn't have it before the peace talks. And there is a strong possibility that if they do decide to go for it, that might be one of the first places that they go is to utilize a form of attack to signify that peace talks are over, ceasefire is done, and actually just, bombard. Because the only way that you can really make the most impact is if it's a surprise attack. If it is a planned, prepared attack, if I send a memo and let you know that, hey, 2:45 Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to be in Yemen. If that's the case, they're going to reinforce Yemen. If they're going to do some type of sting operation on Yemen, they may redirect everybody's attention to the middle of Iran and then go and hit Yemen anyway and do like a dual operation. One of the things that the ceasefire does for America, because America is not close to Iran, it allows for a 2-week voyage for the United States to sail over there with reinforcements so that they can knock that out. Because I believe that U.S. troops are meant to secure Yemen force. They should. We're sitting over here talking about the drone strikes, and that taking out those drone strikes would benefit their ability to maintain an offensive. because you have to move outside of the flight patterns of the drone strikes and be able to have the resources to shoot down drones, which puts you at a defensive on their offensive front. And that is contradictory to your ability to succeed. So it would make more sense strategically to go ahead and destroy the facilities that have the drones so that they can't launch the drones, so that you don't have to worry about that, allowing you to get closer without receiving exposure to an offensive from them. Because if you keep them on the defensive, there's not much attack that they can do. And, blocking off their coast, it's not likely that you're going to see like an Iranian whatever happening on the coast of California. You know what I mean? So keeping the battle over there, it takes a lot more effort, which, like you said, if they go over there and knock that out. He said, a war of drones and missile trade. I don't know if it's going to be a war of just drones. I think it's going to be a war of missiles. The type of missiles that are going to be used is going to strategically be because they want the oil to not be compromised, and they're not going to want to really disrupt the ability to free flow oil immediately after this particular conflict. And that's probably why he didn't take out the major power plant yet, because if he blows up the power plant, then what is the oil refineries going to run off of? Yeah, I know, not just drones, mostly missiles. No, I was saying I don't know if it's going to be like drones, and I think it's going to be like mostly like gigantic, the size of like gigantic bus size missiles being dropped down, like huge 3-block radius explosions is like, I think that it's going to be really severe over there. And Trump originally discussed a few weeks ago, allegedly considering helping rebuild, but then once they got to the peace talks, he was like, nah, fuck that, I'm not rebuilding shit. You started this. He's the largest supply lines. Does Iran have any subs left? That's a good question. What happened to the damn subs? I don't believe that all of Iranian sea offensive has been taken out, but I do believe that there is something preventing them from being out there in the waters, going head to head with the United States the first few weeks. But now that all of these ships are on their ports, because we were sending planes from like Europe and Germany, and you know what I mean? So we were doing more of an aerial assault. If they had subs, they may not have been able to use those subs for the planes that were zipping by during the first assault. Now that we've got ships all over the place, subs and aircraft carriers, that's where subs do best, is aircraft carriers. Subs don't do as well for like planes going all over the place. You know what I mean? So if they got any subs left, likely they're going to be going after those gigantic aircraft carriers that are out there off the coast. So you already know that while they announced all of the aircraft carriers and stuff that are being rerouted to go over there and block the strait, they're not talking about the subs that are going to be covering those ships. So that's going to be another thing. So you're going to have sub versus sub scenarios. It's going to be crazy. So Iran's doctrine is not reliant on its Navy or Air Force. So we got the big ships, which were mostly in ports because Iran knew they would be knocked out. Because, they're going to say, blow up their ships, blow up their planes, take out their bases so they can't launch. It doesn't have to be how they do it. They can have little dinghies that go out and take control of your ship. But he said, I think Iran has a diesel/electric subs. True. But for some reason, those subs are not out there in the water right now doing what it needs to be done. They probably will be. And if they do, with the subs going out there, there's going to be, like I said before, a ship versus sub conflict is going to be a lot easier than sub versus fast moving airplane conflicts, because torpedoes work well underwater, and launching missiles above sea level from a sub for a non-moving target is a whole lot easier than turn attack against uh, a fast-moving airplane. Is that a good question? Yeah, Michael's got a lot of sense. Michael's 72 years old. He know what he be talking about, man. He was here when the first two wars happened. He was here. He was like 40 in Desert Storm. He been around for a long, long time, you know. Him and Jesus used to play in the sandbox together. So him and Moses, you know, messed up school photos, you know, got in trouble for parting the Red Sea. He was out there just doing it big back in the day. Like he was out there for a long time. Michael's social security number is 0. And he mad because Jesus got the 1. Michael know what's going on though. He said, "I got no sense the longer that you live." Yeah, but philosophers determine that if you think you know everything, you know nothing, and if you think you know nothing, you know everything. So for those of us who honestly recognize that we don't know everything, we know more than what people give us credit for. That's kind of how it works. So President Trump, at the forefront of this, employed a volatile mix of bombardment threats and fleet optimisms. He didn't want to tell during his last press conference late last week about how many troops he had sent out there. But he had a lot of people that's being sent out there, right? Wisdom, yes, definitely wisdom. He said, "My number is 1." You'd have took Jesus' social security number. Like, no, it's mine. We're gonna meet when the sundial reaches left. All right. So Donald Trump had swung from claiming Iran had agreed to everything to warning that if they don't sign the deal, that the whole country is getting blown up. That's one of the things that I have been projecting that is a strong likelihood and a high probability. You know, Trump is stating that the United States naval blockade will remain in effect until the final deal is signed. So they're not going to see any changes in what's going on until they either reach a conclusion or they run out of ammunition. He said, "Thank you for the chat. Earn my sub. Have a great night." We're here 7 nights a week. We're going to be talking about other ways to make money and invest and everything like that. Today, we're just talking about how the conflict is costing us money. And we're giving you guys updates on how the situation is getting um, reckless, and it's getting reckless overseas, and that's going to make it hurt for the rest of us because we're going to be dealing with this financially for the rest of the year. Um, by the even if they were to reach agreements by Friday, um, the conflict and devastation that happens over there is going to be a long-standing recovery phase for the countries that are impacted, and the price change for those countries will be offset on the customers, and the customers are going to offset that onto us. And if the price change runs stagnant for a consistent period of time, it may become a permanent price that we will just accept. Even when they recover, they're not going to reduce the price and do us a favor. So at the end of the day, we can see a certain quantity of permanent inflated costs in addition to regular inflated costs. And that's one of the reasons why we're covering today's topic. So I appreciate you, Mehdi, for coming through. Hopefully we see you tomorrow with some of the stuff we're going to be talking about with how the special education programs are about to cost people that they need. Recently about allowing ADHD accommodations for online stuff, which I didn't add into tomorrow's script, but I'm going to go ahead and run that through. I'm going to phase that in some kind of way to make sure that that is included in tomorrow's discussion. Is that Jesus and I is going to wrestle? Y'all go. y'all gonna scrap. It ain't gonna be by the flagpole. Oh, y'all gonna meet outside the manger. loser gets thrown into the lion's den. So, as discussions are continuing to talk on the side of Iranian dictators, the messaging is confusing blends of defiance and cautious overturns. So this is going to be reflecting an internal power struggle where publicly officials would be defiant. President Mossad Pezeshkian might state that the Iranian people will not bow to force, and Iran's foreign minister is calling the United States blockade a seizure, Talski, a violation of the ceasefire, threatening to walk away from the negotiations. So, at the core of the diplomatic impasse are two unreconcilable demands. Iran is insisting on the full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz only if the United States completely lifts the naval blockade. But the Iran still said it won't be their first match. Both of them fighting with death. Jesus won the last time after a 3-day KO. Oh boy! But one of the demands that Iran wanted in the treaties was primary control over the strait. So they're not going to reopen the strait unless they retain control over the strait and America withdraws their blockade. Now, Tehran's reported conditions for the long-term deal is going to include sanction relief, where they're no longer having to pay, having all their money released, financial reparations for everything being destroyed, and international recognition of their control over the Hormuz. And the United States is refusing to be drawn into what President Trump is still calling blackmail, where the American position is that the blockade is a legitimate response to Iran's initial closure of the strait, and this open for open stalemate would become the central obstacle. Mediation efforts is proving fruitless, where Pakistan's brokered the initial ceasefire, would be working frantically to bring both sides back to talks in Islamabad. However, the prospects would be shaky. Iran has repeatedly stated it has no plans to attend, while the United States delegation, perhaps led by Vance or Vice President J.D. Vance and Jared Kushner, had not even departed yet. So they're not even on their way. Other international powers would be watching with growing alarm. China would call for normal shipping to be maintained. Russia, while pushing for a diplomatic solution, might ensure its own vessels can still pass. Europe leaders are condemning Iran's actions, but also expressing discomfort, while the American strategy is calling for diplomacy. So Europe is saying that while what Iran did was wrong, what America is doing is not any better, right? That's what the other countries are looking at. So as we look at the ceasefire deadline of Wednesday on Tuesday morning, because they're saying that the ceasefire is supposed to happen Wednesday evening. What I clocked it at high noon, but it ain't technically high noon. High noon, like the Wild West, like one of them grit shows, like one of them John West movies. You know what I mean? High noon. It's like missile the first. But um it's gonna be evening time in Washington, which might be high noon in Iran. Um, this deadline is approaching, and the diplomatic path appears to be a dead end. So the United States is demanding uh, population, and Iran is demanding cohesion. So, with no direct talks confirmed and both sides digging in, the war of words seems destined to escalate back into a war of weapons. And that's going to be one of the biggest issues with social media right now, is because when they could have back in the day with horse and buggy and letters being passed back and forth, appropriate communication between the people within reason could have been done. With social media, blatant trash talking between one another is more encouraged, which triggers emotional retaliatory response, which doesn't improve the situation. Thinking about what you're going to say before you say it, editing it a few times before you send it, where even if it is a little bit disrespectful, it is slightly professional, it's going to be a whole lot more of a better resolve than the um, ongoing verbal banter that they're having over the media. Now, what we're dealing with right now, uh, the world is going to be standing at a precipice. The tit for tat blockades have created a perilous standoff where any miscalculation could trigger a multi front war with catastrophic global consequences. And the Strait of Hormuz remains uh, commercially unusable. And that's going to be one of the things that's hurting us financially with our investments. So over 870 vessels could be trapped in the Gulf, and floating city of stranded commerce, which once things start going back into normal function, those 870 vessels are going to just and get going, at least the ones that weren't blown up and dismantled, which means that if you're buying into those stocks now while the shit is hitting the fan, when the dust settles and everything starts going back to normal, you will start seeing a surplus of growth on your investment opportunity. So you want to make sure that even in the midst of conflict, that you want to find your ability to capitalize, it's the spirit of capitalism, on the conflict that exists. Because you can't control what's happening out there, but you can definitely turn a financial profit off of it somewhere, right? You don't have to be the person that is sitting there being defiled financially by the inflation cost. You could be the person that hedges that inflation cost by your financial investments and get the growth impact off of the recovery after the conflict, while you consume the inflated cost during the conflict. Because what happens after this is over is going to be far more important than what's happening during the conflict. Forward thinking is more important than in the moment action, which is why we don't really come from just a simple left wing, right wing discussion. It's like, look at how the money is happening. Now, meanwhile, the United States Navy's blockade is going to remain an iron ring around Iran's coast. That's not going to change. So as a 2-week ceasefire nears its expiration, what do you think is going to happen? There are several scenarios that could unfold. We were talking about a lot of scenarios last week, but the most optimistic thoughts that we had, currently unlikely, was the path that is a negotiated settlement. I don't see happening. These two leaders are not willing to fold on their positions. This is likely going to involve for open deals where the United States partially lifts the blockade in exchange for a verified complete reopening of the strait. This could pave the way for a more complex negotiation down the line. However, the risk of a broader escalation is terrifyingly real and far more plausible. So if the ceasefire expires without a deal, Trump's warning that lots of bombs will start going off could come true. And this could mean that extensive U.S. attacks on Iranian infrastructure, Iran in turn could respond by directly targeting United States warships or the energy infrastructure of American allies in the Gulf. That means the conflict doesn't come directly to the United States, but the fallout of the conflict will, as they ship back the remains of soldiers that didn't survive, versus the cost of expenses for us when we're going to buy goods. Now, the other fallout that we're going to have is any unresolved conflict with Iran that continues to exist through January of 2027. You have to recognize that from December of 2026, every 18 to 26-year-old male is automatically entered in as a candidate for a draft. So any need to pull soldiers into combat after December is going to cause for every young buck that's not paying attention to what's going on in April to potentially be on the front lines in January. So if it doesn't get resolved this year, you might be involved in it next year, which is why you got to pay attention to the politics around the things that you cannot control. If you don't start learning how to defend yourself and pick up and dismantle and utilize firearms now, and between 18 and 26, if they pull you in, you might not have enough time to learn, and a lack of knowledge could be the difference between surviving and not surviving. I'm just trying to tell you. So, such scenarios that are going to also make things worse would send oil prices into an uncontrollable spiral where they're going to be far more outrageously high than before. You think that when gas was almost $5.50 a gallon was a problem over the past few weeks. If the oil prices go up another $20, you're looking at potentially seeing the gas prices go up another $1.50. So you're looking at potentially seeing $6 to $7 gas, and city gas used to be $5. In cities where gas was closer to $4 and $5, you're looking at gas being closer to $8 or $9. Gas is going to be almost as much as a pack of Newports by the time this shit is over. Y'all going to be like, shoot, I'm walking. And with gas prices going up, the overall cost of public transportation is going to go up. Your monthly bus pass might go up an extra $10 or $15 a month. They're not just going to say, oh, well, we're not going to raise prices just because. Shit, they're going to pay for pass. It's not just going to stop at the pump, because the bus has got to stop at the pump. He said, if I was younger, I'd go to Canada for a few seasons. But see, that's the problem. If you leave and go to Canada without renouncing your citizenship, you're likely to be drafted, because according to the new drafts, everybody, including illegal immigrants, asylum individuals, everybody between 18, if you're on American soil and you haven't been deported yet, you will be put on the front lines. So those folks that was scooped up over the past year, if they're still in the military black site and have not been put on the first plane back to Mexico, if they're still here, they might actually be put on the first plane to Iran. It's a thing now. So he's 18 through 56. No, it's not. They're mandatorily enlisting, auto enlist, 18 to 26. I know that there might have been a thing back in the day where people can volunteer and join between 18 and 56, provided that their health is adequate. So anybody with an injury that would potentially disqualify them from service, they would be exempt from that over the age of 26. But the mandatory enrollment of men is going to be auto enrolled for those that are 18 through 26. So if you're 27 and above, any mandatory enlistment laws that has existed since 1980, they have not enforced that with punishments where you'll be going to prison for treason. Instead, they just deny you financial benefit, giving you the false sense that enlistment is not mandatory. But the problem is that enlistment is mandatory. So all the kids that are able-bodied and uninjured are definitely going to get enlisted, whether they want to or not, because they filed taxes, they got student loan money, they've applied for government funding somewhere. Any type of information that has their current name, current address, and current way to locate them, that's going to be the two biggest problems of that enlistment thing. Because the average person, here's the thing real quick, and I'm going to talk about this. I should have talked about this before. The average person uses their primary address, their house, the one on their driver's license. Now, I talked about this a few years ago, but I'm going to talk about it now. You as a post office box as your primary address, because you would have to use the street address of the post office box. You don't say P.O. box, whatever. You use the street address of your post office. And then your post office box is the unit number. And they can mail stuff directly to the post office, to your post office box, which also means that if you get a utility bill, a bank statement, or anything to that effect that has the address as a physical address with a apartment number or suite number on there to reflect your post office box on any utility bill that you have, bank statement or whatever. You can utilize that to put that address on your driver's license, which then reflects your driver's license as the address that they can contact you from, not the address that you sleep at. But what people usually do is they file taxes, they use their physical address. They put their physical address on their driver's license. These legal documents are going to be how the military finds you. If your post office box has your last known address on it, and assuming that your last known address on it is the most updated address, they can find you. That's a problem, right? So if your post office box is on your driver's license and you don't have another address on your post office box, it's harder for them to find you when it comes down to you. So, that's just something people need to think about right now. I know that, oh, well, I just use my mom and them house. Right. But your mom and them is a snitch. They will tell that, oh, he ain't here, but he over here. Right. They know where to find you. So, right. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. So they're using all of that stuff, DMV records, because people who registers their vehicle to their physical address. They register their all of their bank accounts is going to be registered to their physical address. But if you utilize your post office box as street address, your post office box as a suite number, so the post office address, suite number for your box, zip code, city, state, whatever, and that is put on your driver's license, your address is your post office box. I was telling people that they could utilize this exact same method for utilizing a hotel that you stay at on a regular basis as your physical address. You can do the same thing with a post office box. If your post office is 1234 First Main Street and your post office box is 321, instead of saying PO Box 321 city, state, zip code, you can say 123 Main Street, suite 321 city, state, zip code. That's a physical address. And you can put that on your driver's license. And then you can put that on your car insurance. You can put that on your vehicle's insurance. So they'll go to the post office looking for you, but you don't live there. People can do that. but nobody really thinks about these things because legally they are supposed to have a physical address or a legitimate address that they can contact you. You maintain that post office box. If they mail something to the box and you go to that box to collect mail, you will know that they sent you something, but they go to an address to collect you for the draft. They're going to go to your last known address, and your last known address being a post office box. They will go to the post office and they'll find out, yeah, he don't live here. And now they have to figure out how to find you. For those who don't want to go, and you got to make it harder for them to come and find you. But again, filing taxes, they know where you work because you've got the job that you work for. Those that are going to college, they know where you go to school because your financial aid is putting money into a university that you go to. So they can find you eventually. It'll just be harder for them to come and get you from your house. He said, my insurance just gets the zip code. No, your insurance is going to take the physical address of the primary account holder and put it on the insurance card. And that's why law enforcement, when they pull you over, they ask you, because usually your physical address on your driver's matches the address on your insurance card because you use your driver's license to prove your identity and they just copy and paste. So if your post office box is on your driver's license and your post office box ends up on your car insurance, and again, with your vehicle registration, if the post office box is on your vehicle registration, when they go to contact you, they're contacting a post office box. They're not going to be able, oh, well, he lives X, Y, and Z. No. And you'll also come to find out that background checks are a lot harder for them to do when everything bounces back to a post office box. It is a legal form of registering yourself in a way where they don't come knocking on your front door, because you do get mail from this location, and that's what you're legally required to do, is give them updated access to where you collect your mail, not where you sleep at night. That's the difference, and people don't recognize that. And they do have the laws out there that you're supposed to be able to update that information every within 90 days of relocating. And one of the the best parts about a post office box is because you always go to that post office box. You can move 10 times in 10 years, but you always go to that same post office box. You don't have to change your address. You just drive further to get your mail, right? And that's something that people don't think about. Now, the rare occasions where you do change your post office box because it's too far for you to get to, now you're only changing a post office box once every 15 or 20 years, where you have relocated physically 15 or 20 times in the last 15 or 20 years, right? Now, when it comes down to financial situations where you're trying to show stability, and they ask, where have you lived in the past 5 years? Well, I've had this exact same address for the past 20 years. That shows stability. All your bills run through this address and has always run through this address for the past 20 years. They know where to find you, allegedly, right? They can't really serve you a legal location because they can't leave it there. So then they got to rethink their position. But at the same time, if they wanted to mail you a letter and say, hey, come to the courthouse, you would get that letter and you'd be able to show up. So the fact is that you meet those standards, and it shows a little bit better for like mortgages and loans and this, that, and the other, because when they say, well, where have you lived for the past, if you have lived somewhere else in the past 5 years, all those addresses, that's so that they can do a massive background check. Bro, this is the only address I've had for the past 25 years. That's the only address I'm going to put on this document, right? If they wanted to serve you, that would be a long wait. That would definitely be a long wait, because they got to figure out how the fuck they're going to get in touch with you now, because the address that you receive mail is not the address that you sleep. There is no law that says that the address where you sleep has to go on your driver's license, and there's no law that says that the address where you sleep has to go on your insurance card. There's no law that says that the address where you sleep has to go on your on your tax return. But how people find you is by the address on your driver's license, the address on your vehicle registration, the address on your tax return. So if that address is a third-party location, they are not going to come and get you. Well, they're going to come get you. They're just not going to come and get that. They're not going to come and get you there. He said the government doesn't look at PO boxes as permanent residence. You have to have a physical address to not be considered homeless. Actually, that's what I'm trying to tell you, Michael. Instead of it being PO Box 12345, city, state, zip code, it is First, Second, Third Main Street, Suite 321, city, state, zip code. That is a physical address. So you understand that it's just the difference between identifying this as a PO box versus using the physical street address of the post office, and then using your PO box as the unit number, and then doing city, state, zip code. That is a physical address. But a physical address is not your place of residence. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. It is not your primary place of residence. It is a physical address, a physical entity. And a post office is a physical address. It is a physical entity where your mail is set. There's about 15 or 20 motherfuckers in there from sun up to sundown pushing your mail around. It qualifies under the standard, right? So look it up, and correct me if I'm wrong. But when you go and ask the Google lady, I can guarantee you that they're going to double back, and there's no information that says that you legally cannot utilize a post office box as a primary. And matter of fact, if you look up the information from the post office service, they have specifically indicated that you can structure it in that fashion to collect bigger packages. I don't know if they're doing that to compete with UPS and FedEx, but yes, you can use their physical street address, use your post office box as the unit number, and then do city, state, zip code. That is a physical address, and they will mail all your shit to that location, and the post office will stick it in that box. The same way you can do the same thing at a hotel. You use the physical address of the hotel, your hotel number, your room number as the unit number, and then city, state, zip code, and you can use the hotel as your physical address. The only difference is when you check out of the hotel, you're not going to use you're not going to use that hotel anymore. But you're paying $100 every 6 months for a post office box, $200 a year for a post office box. That box will always be accessible by you. Yes, and they're going to give you keys to the post office box. And the fact is that the doors are open 24/7 for you to go to the place where your locker is, to open the door and get your mail. So you can go in the middle of the night and go and collect the post office box. You don't have to be there between 8 and 5 on regular business hours. You can be there at like 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday going to check your mail at a post office box, instead of having kids knocking over your mail at your house and messing up your mailbox at your house. You can have everything important behind a lock and key at a post office box and go get it when you feel like it. Time sensitive documents requires you to show up more often, checking the mail to see if your stuff is there. But fuck what they're sending. If all of my bills are supposed to be auto pay anyway, I get there when I get there. The fact is, you can detach where you sleep from where you collect your mail just by restructuring how you put your physical address or your post office box as a physical address. That's all I'm saying. If you look into it, you'd be like, shit, I should have did it a long time ago. You know what I mean? Lockers are shared though. That's sketchy to me. Don't want to lose anything. Lockers are not shared. This is the thing, Steven. You have a specific post office box. And if you buy the smallest one that's just big enough to collect regular mail, if it is bigger than that box, for free, the post office puts the larger package into one of those quote unquote shared lockers. Then what they do is they lock that locker, take the key to that locker, put it into your post office box. Then you open your post office box, you see that key, and then you take that key and then you go and unlock that locker, and then you get your package out of that locker. So your stuff is still under a lock and key. Then if it's a package that requires a signature, they will put the certified signature card into your post office box that says there's something you need to sign for. Not going to tell you what it is. They're not going to let you determine what the item is before you sign for it. You have to sign for it to get it to determine what it is. Once you sign for it, you've received it. If you don't like the document, that's up to you. But everything, including signed packages, happens at the post office. And they will hold your shit. They will put the letter in the post office box and they will hold your shit. They're not going to hold it for eternity, but they will hold your shit. Right. But then when they send SWAT to the address, your physical address, they're sending SWAT to the fucking post office box. They're not sending SWAT to your house. They would have to GPS track your car. They would have to follow you home in order to know where your house is, because you don't have it on record where your house is. You know what I mean? That's one of the ways that old folks stay off the grid. Because when you set up a bank account, it's going to use the address on your driver's license. Even though you're going to update your driver's license, you're not going to update your bank account. Those addresses only have to match if you're getting Social Security disability. So young bucks will have their last address on their bank statement, their current address on their driver's license. But if that address is a post office box, the address is going to be the same all the way across, because you're never going to change that post office box until you can no longer access that post office box. Now, the best that they can do is determine what city and state that your post office box is in, because you don't have to have a post office box in the same city and state that you live in. It would be more convenient, but if you don't, wherever your post office box is, that's going to start looking for you. And if you're not there, it's going to take them a little bit longer to find you. Now, plausible deniability is that if they send a notice to the post office box and you never go to the post office box, you didn't get the notice. By the time it's time for you to show up, when you do get the notice, the war is over. You don't gotta worry. But if you're filing taxes, you got stuff like they might hold your refund and say, hey, come to the draft, right? IRS. Then you have the situation where if you're a college student, they might hold your financial aid and say, hey, come to the draft. They might do that. They might come down to your school, and then you thinking that they're doing a demonstration when they ask us coming to do a demonstration on you. You might be at work one day and you might have two MPs come up to your damn job and be like, I'm coming to get so and so. Hey, they can do that, but Well, all I'm saying is that you can be off the grid a whole lot easier if you just transferred your place that you collect mail to a different location than the place where you sleep. And when they're serving legal documents, like I said before, when they're serving legal documents, if they're serving it to the place where you can collect mail, if they require your mandatory signature, they're not going to leave it with the postman. They're gonna see what I'm saying? They're not gonna leave it with the postman. They're gonna have to find your address in order to serve you. So here's another issue. Here's another issue that I think is fucking phenomenal in the United States, and nobody really knows about this. They cannot take legal action against you if they do not serve you on the legal action. Also, statute of limitations, if the case doesn't start before the statute of limitations expires, then they can't take legal action against you. If it takes them longer to find you than it does for the statute of limitations, they're less likely to be able to take legal actions against you, because by the time they find you, the case is too old and the case gets thrown out on expiration of time. That's like another issue that's like so beneficial for you that people don't know about that. He said, I had to ask what the key was for the first time. Yeah, I did too. I was like, what the fuck is thinking keys in my box for? I already got 20 keys in my post office box. I use my post office box like a safe, boy. I be putting all kind of valuable shit in that bitch. He said, I'm glad I'm old enough not to have to duck the draft. But look, I just told you how to duck getting a civil action. Because when the sheriff come to knock on your door because of some bullshit, they're coming to your physical address. If your physical address is a post office box, the sheriff is going to go to the post office box. They're not going to come to your house. So I just showed you, you didn't just duck the draft. You just ducked the lawsuit. You just ducked the investigation. You just ducked, I'm just here to ask questions. You just ducked all that shit because they're going to go knock on the door of the physical address. They're not going to knock on the door of where you sleep. The situation will have to happen at your house in order for them to knock on your door and ask you questions at your house. Because if you were identified as a involved party or witness of an incident, and they're going to go to the physical address that they find your name is listed under, they're going to go to the post office box and knock on that door. And when they find out that that's a post office, that nobody sleeps there, they're not going to go there looking for you. They're going to be like, well, fuck, we got to find out where this person is at. The trail stops here. So now you're not being harassed unnecessarily for stuff that you're not directly involved in, because unless it happened on your doorstep, your physical address on your doorstep is not listed as a place where they can serve you any kind of bullshit. They don't know where to find you. They would have to pick you up in a traffic stop off the road. And if they pull you over, hey, is this your current address? The most police officers believe that where you sleep is your physical address on your driver's license. Yes, that is my address, because that's the address that you collect mail from. That's not where you sleep. That's the address where you collect mail from. And that's what matters. It keeps you layer of protection. Now, remember, I told you guys, I give y'all all the knowledge that y'all need to do your research and then verify before you put this into action so that you feel comfortable with doing these things. But if you know that these levels of protection are there for you and you can pay for it and it's reasonable, but at the end of the day, it keeps you from having to deal with unnecessary bullshit. No, it doesn't. Is if you don't show up, it goes against you. If you don't get notified, you can't show up. The only time that you not showing up is held against you is when you are properly notified. You knew that it was happening and you refused to show up. If you didn't know that it was happening, they could not expect you to show up. How can I be somewhere that I didn't know I was supposed to be there? So you have what is called plausible deniability, because they failed to notify me appropriately. I did not know where to go. I did not know that I had to go. So you don't have to worry about because here's the thing. If the sheriff knock on your door, subpoena you for a civil action, and you refuse to sign the documents, evading service can be a charge. You know that this case exists because the sheriff was there. He talked to you. He verified your identity and everything. He talked to the judge, and now the judge knows that you know that this case exists. If you don't show up, that can be held against you. If you commit a crime, you got arrested, you got issued a court date, you know you got to go to court. Because you know that you got to go, if you don't show up, that will be used against you. Now, let's say that while we're having this podcast, Michael, a legal action happens against you. You didn't know that this shit was going on. How would you know to go to court? Nobody told you. You cannot have a legal action happen without your knowledge, and you cannot have the resolution of that legal action occur without your rightful 4th and 14th Amendment constitutional right to fair and reasonable due process, which allows you to be involved in the legal action. So if the legal action occurs without your involvement, that is an unlawful legal action, which means that if they don't notify you, they cannot take legal action. If they can't find you to notify you, they have to delay the legal action until they find you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All I'm saying is make it harder for them to find you. Because the only time you want to be found is when they're giving you money, not when they're taking it away. The only time you want them to find you is when they're giving you shit, not taking away your freedom. So at the end of the day, if they really want to find you, they'll put a warrant out for your arrest, and then they will find you, right? However, if they don't really care if they find you or not, it's just like, hey, we would have asked them questions, but this isn't the right address. Oops. Kind of how it works. Nobody come and knock on the door and say, hey, where's so-and-so? I don't know. They don't live here, and that's where the trail stops. So I'm just letting y'all know, if you look into it, you're going to find out that I'm not bullshitting, that this is some stuff that has always been around. People just don't utilize it like this. And since people don't utilize it like this, they put themselves in a position to get direct contact with unnecessary bullshit. The trust situation is the exact same thing. When you're building a trust, you're going to build a third-party entity that is legal of your assets, right? That third-party entity is going to have a third-party bank account, right? That third-party entity is not going to have your physical address on it. The trust is going to be assigned to a post office box, which is exactly what we're talking about right now, that the trustee is going to utilize in order to access information about the assets that the trustee holds. Or if the trustee is being run by a third person, like a different company or law firm or whatever the case may be, then the trust is going to get mail at the law firm that holds the trust, which is still not your physical address. It's exactly the same thing. Any bullshit that happens, you're going to have to contact them. If you own a business and you have a registered agent, the registered agent is supposed to receive service on your behalf. That registered agent doesn't have to be a friend or family of the business. The registered agent is a person that legally collects mail on your behalf. So if you get a lawsuit in the mail, they send it to your registered agent. The registered agent gets served, and then you get notified by the registered agent. If the registered agent is notified, your company is officially served. Now your company has to go to court. That's how that works. If your registered agent is not up to date, then they can't serve you. And if they can't serve you, you can't go to court because you didn't know. FX Trader, Kenny sent a processor to guard the post office box. I mean, what human being is going to go over there and stand guard at the post office box? What's going to happen is that the process server is going to go to the post office box, recognize that this is a post office box, and then go back and notify the court that it cannot be served, because that's a business, not the residents of the participant in the legal action. And then either the court, depending on an action against you, is going to have to find your address so that they can properly notify you. And if they can't, there is I think a 120 day or 90 days or 180 days scenario where it is administratively dismissed because the case goes cold. They can't serve the other party, and then all of a sudden the case dies because the other party is not contacted. They can amend and refile if they're still inside of the statute of limitations. But if, say, you have a legal action in Texas, a civil action, not a criminal action. You have a civil action in Texas and you move to Maine. Nobody knows where you are. They're not going to continue to take this legal action for 40 years. Some statutes of limitations is 3 years, some 5 years, some, and if they don't get you in the courtroom by the time that statute of limitations is up, the situation just dies. And that's it. Because I'll never give up my post office box in my hometown. Many zip codes away now and I still use it. Damn right. Damn right. So I got a 287,845,000 check today. Congratulations. It was an ad or a third party that wants one of my houses. And that ad is one of the reasons why they be mailing that shit to my post office box. I would never get it. I don't accept mail at the primary address. They would not be able to send mail to the primary address and be like, "Ooh, you got mail." No, I don't, because nobody knows that I live here. My mailbox will be full of junk mail. And you do realize that if you leave junk mail in your mailbox, the mail person's got to take the junk mail back out of the mailbox. After a while, they got to put it in. I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks. They got to leave it in there. Then after that, they got to take it out. Eventually, they stop putting the junk mail in your mailbox because there's nothing going in your mailbox. Nothing, no bills, no light, gas, water, nothing going in your mailbox. So that means that your mail, whatever the mail person put into your mailbox when they pass by, it's just gonna stay in the box, and it's just not gonna go anywhere. It's just gonna stay in the box. He said, "I missed my coupons though." I missed the coupon section too, but you got to realize that with today's day and age, there's an app for most grocery stores that you shop at. So instead of the coupons coming in the mail, you download the apps of some of the stores that you shop at the most, and they're going to have coupons on the app. So now you can just download the coupons and sometimes scan the barcode of the coupons from your cell phone at the grocery counter, and you can just grab a bunch of stuff and just use it as a coupon book. Technology, fintech is in our favor these days, which decreases the value of needing a physical mailbox outside of your house. Because I mean, if everything of importance is going to the post office box and all of the coupons are on your cell phone, what is the mail person bringing to your house? Because most of our packages that we order these days is being shipped in by FedEx, UPS, or DHS, and they're mailing it directly to the house and putting it on the doorstep. And most of the stuff that we're ordering right now from Amazon and Temu and everything like that is being shipped to us from China. So we're not even really outside of Walmart.com. We're not really ordering too many things directly from down the street from our house. So the mailman is not going to have any purpose to come to my house besides to drop off junk mail. Because everything of value was sifted and put into a post office box. That's crazy. But if we think about these things, we will find a whole new way to operate. I said, when people get their mail in a post office box in the United States while living abroad, this is legal. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because your mailing address is the address where your mail is being sent. You can go out of town for a month. You can go out of town for a year. You can do hold mail. You can do stop postage scenarios with the post office box. You can notify them that you're going out of town for a specific period of time, and then tell them how long you're going to be gone, and they can collect all of your mail and put it into a specific location. And then when it's time for you to start receiving mail again, all of the mail that they've been holding for you, they can give it to you at one point in time, and then you just take that big ass box of mail and bring it back to the house and sort through it. Which in that situation is going to be a bunch of non-junk mail, because the only things of relevance that they're going to hold for you is stuff specifically assigned to you, not dear residents or whatever the case may be. So in that situation, you can hold your mail or have delayed distribution of your mail. But it is legal to have your mail collected in the United States while you're in another country. You can have a different person go to your mailbox and collect the mail from your mailbox on your behalf without having to go there, because the box is only restricted by the key. As long as the key works, you don't have to talk to the mail person. So you can just unlock, whoever's got the key can unlock the door, take whatever's in there out, and then bring it to you. Matter of fact, funny thing, a person can go to that mailbox, unlock the door, take whatever's out, put it into a box, and ship it to you in another country, and it doesn't change anything. It'll delay when you get it, and it'll also delay your response to it. But with technology, here's another thing. A person that you know can go to the post office box, open the box, take the shit out, open all of your mail for you, determine what's valuable, scan it into a computer, and fax it to you. And you can get it within 15 or 20 minutes of them opening all of your mail. If they've got the key, if you've given them authorization to take that key and go get the mail on your behalf, you can never go to that box and still get all of your mail in a timely fashion, and they can scan everything and put it into an email and fax it to you. And you don't have to fly there. You don't have to drive there. You can have your hometown post office box that you've never changed, and you could be living 3 states away, and you can still be getting your mail in 3 to 5 business days. The time it takes for that person to go check your mailbox on your behalf and scan it into the system and send it to you is the time that it takes for you to get your mail. And then you can still print everything out where you're at and still respond to that mail accordingly, right? So, and if you don't believe me, go and ask the Google lady. Y'all go ahead and go do your own research, and y'all can find out that what I'm telling y'all is legit. It's 100% legit. This is not scam stuff. These post office boxes are put there as layers of protection. Technically used originally, like, think about this. Judges, lawyers, police officers don't have their on-duty physical address as the where they sleep at night. Judges have a post office box. Congressmen have a post office box. Governors have a post office box. Businesses have a post office box. This is what it's used for. It's a layer of protection. If you're a criminal attorney and everybody hates you, your post office box is where all your dirty mail is going to. Your physical address where you sleep at night is not the address that people mail you shit, which protects you from negative recourse from society. So, same thing with a judge. A criminal attorney or a criminal judge, that everybody hates you because you're ruling against them. You're ruling against their family members. You get mail at your post office box. You don't get mail at your house. Your job is separate from where you live. And as a result, your name might be public knowledge, but where you live is not public knowledge, because on public record, it's going to be a place where your mail can go that is not where you sleep. That's why I'm telling you, this is a legal recourse to put a layer between where you sleep and where you engage the rest of the world. So this is not a way to scam the system, but I'm just saying, since they use that as a way to find out where you sleep, because you put that difference between where you sleep and where you get your mail, you're severing that connection. Now they can't come to your house with bullshit because they Google search you. When they Google search you, nothing will come up. Trying to tell you, I've been on this podcast for several years. You Google Xander, nothing comes up. I'm trying to tell you, this is a thing. Is if the junk mail has a first class stamp on it, you can write return to sender on it, and I write a note on them at addressing what on it, and the post office will send it, costing you nothing. Yes, sir. You can actually buy online now. I love this. I love this. A return to sender stamp, which makes it easier for you to send the shit back. You can literally, any kind of mail that comes to your house, junk mail, magazines, ads, anything to that effect, and you can put an instant stamp on that bit. Boom, return to sender, shove it right back into the box, and put the little flag up for them to know to come and get it. And they will open the box and see that all the junk mail on there has a return to sender notice on it, and they will send it all back to where it came from at no additional cost to you. Now, you can handwrite it in there, but I mean, the cost of a pen is about as much as the effectiveness of stamping it with a certified return to sender stamp, and have the mailman send that shit back, you know. But you're not return to sender any legal action. You're not return to sender any government documents. So you gotta make sure that you do that. Take a look at that. He said, I have a post office box. Most people that have been alive before the internet was created have a post office box. They don't use it the way I'm telling you to use it, but most people who have been alive before the internet was created have a post office box. I know. The stamp is just fine. I would say I would do the same thing with a traffic ticket. I would hit that stamp with rejected. Big ass red thing around there, they're rejected. Then sign that motherfucking red ink. And sign that bitch lightly too. That way they can't say, oh, we got the carbon copy. No, fuck you don't. I'm still gonna show up. Stamps, U.S. postal stamps. The same way the U.S. Postal Service stamp stuff. You can get a stamp just like that that allows for you to go ahead and just stamp this item and say, nope, I don't want it, send it back. That requires you to go through everything in your box. But see, that's why I told you, if you know that none of the mail that comes to your physical address is necessary, then you can leave all of the stuff in that box in there, never get anything out of it, and only go check the mail at the post office box. And you will find that they will not put crap in your post office box. Why? Because there's not enough space. They're not going to put crap in your physical address box. Why? Because there's not enough space. They have to take the stuff out before they can put stuff in. When they realize nobody ever checks this box, they're going to stop putting stuff in this box. They're going to be like, shit, nah, I got to do something about it. Because once they can't put anything in it, they have two choices. Stop sticking mail in the box, or take the mail that's in the box out and put new mail in the box. That's the only two choices they got, which means now they got all the last month's junk mail that's still sitting in the mailbox. All that last month's junk mail is going to have to be taken out, and then they're going to have to put new stuff. So they're still driving around with all the shit that you didn't want. Now, I don't bring nothing into the house that wasn't for me. So that was just a heads up. I just wanted y'all to know about that, because I mean, this is stuff that really benefits y'all. And if y'all wasn't doing this before, y'all gonna start doing it now. All you gotta do, like I said, find the physical street address of your post office box and do physical street address. Unit number is the post office box. City, state, zip code. That is the address that you're gonna start using, and you put that everywhere. Put it on your start. This is how you do it. This is the most effective way to do it. You start by putting it on a bank account, put it on your phone bill, because those are the two bills that shows proof of address. Then you take those two bills and you bring those down to the DMV, show that to the DMV, change your address on your DMV records, change your address on your insurance records using the address on your driver's license. You can just ask the people on the driver's license to change it to the other address, just so that they can know where to send your insurance bill at. They'll do that with no conflict. But the DMV needs proof of address. And if you have a bank statement or a utility home bill, you change that address, they're going to recognize that is where you get your mail from. That's what they're going to put on your driver's license. Then all of that takes you to a situation where everything else that you have under your name is now registered to a post office box, and now nobody knows where you are, right? And ironically, when you get pulled over, if in the event that they decided they're going to pull you over and they run your name, they run your vehicle registration, that vehicle goes down. They're going to think twice before they pull you over. That vehicle is registered for downtown. It don't matter where the fuck you stay. It's registered to downtown. You know, they're less likely to ask you, is this your current address? You know what I mean? Is that I bought over $1,000 of U.S. stamps unused for $50, and that's not including the collection values. Or if you have any legacy, you can give that to some of your kids, and then they can sell it and they can make a huge profit off of it. Because if you've got $50 worth of stamps and they sell it for over $1,000, $1,500, like they can sell all the stamps to a stamp collector and make them a shit ton of money. Then they can just use that to invest in today's market. Now, back to the main topic. There's a third possible outcome of what's about to happen, and that is going to be that the protracted standoff that happens. This particular scenario, the tension persists for weeks, months, or even longer, and the United States maintains its blockade, and Iran continues to resist passage through the Strait. This is going to create slow burn economic crisis and war of attrition, where victory is determined by who can better endure the immense economic and political cost. Iranian leaders might believe that they can outlast the United States politically, but let's be honest, if your people are no longer able to get the basic resources that they need to survive, your people are going to start being frustrated with your political decisions, and then you're going to start having an uprising the same way Spain had that uprising, which is the reason why Spain wasn't able to do with this conflict that they did in Iraq. So you got to understand that, you know, Americans are wasteful, so Americans will pay the cost. So, you know, odds are the United States will be able to outlast a standoff longer than Iran, because we still getting stuff. We just got to pay a higher premium to get it. So the next 48 hours or the next 36 hours now is going to be a critical scenario to tonight's crisis that we've been looking for the last few weeks, with the crisis that we've been expecting to see. And the fate of the Islamabad peace talks, the rhetoric of both capitals, and the movements of the naval assets is all going to be scrutinized by everybody that's paying attention. So the world holds its breath, hoping for diplomacy and to triumph, but bracing for the possibilities of devastating war instead of that triumph, that's not something everybody is prepared for. So the standoff over the Strait of Hormuz has become a test of the very foundations of our global order, and the clock is ticking for us to see what the outcome is going to be. So one of the things I'm going to recommend for you guys is for y'all to prepare for the unexpected. I told you guys before, go and buy y'all some 20-gallon gas cans and go and buy a bunch of gas while gas was cheap. I told you so. Now I'm telling you, go buy you a bunch of 20-gallon gas cans and go buy you some gas before it gets any fucking higher. Because if you have a house, if you have a yard, if you have a place to store this stuff safely, then you can buy 2 or 3 20-gallon gas cans, and you can hold 60, 70 gallons of gas at your house, and you can use the cheaper priced gas to fill up your vehicles. If you get those ones from Timo, they're like $100 to $200 a thing, and then they have the mechanical pump on it where you can like literally pump it the same way you would pump it at a gas station, and you got quite a few of them, those bad boys on wheels. Then you can literally like pump your car up at your house, and then you only got to go and fill those gas cans up when you decide to go and refill the actual cans. Where now you have like a whole back seat full of a 20-gallon empty gas can that you're going to fill with gasoline and then drive it back to your house. And you're going to do that once every 3 months. That's actually way better for you, because if you have those now and you decide to start using them later when the gas prices go down, if you buy 60 gallons worth of gas over the wintertime and then you start using that as gas right before gas prices start going up, you will find yourself with the ability to delay the inflated cost of gas. And if gas goes down before you run out of gas at your house, you won't be paying for the inflated cost of gas, because you would have the gas cans at your house. Now, for those individuals that deals with storms and other such things, you got 60 gallons of gas at your house, you got a shit ton of gas for your generator. So usually when people need to activate their generator, gas prices have already gone up. So if you've already got the gas before the gas prices went up, and you cycle these things out, you fill these fuckers up, use them, empty one, come back, use the oldest one, and keep cycling through them. The fact is that you will still have fresher gas at your house at the cheapest price you could get it at. And if you need gas, you got fucking 60 gallons of gas at your house. Generator would be able to rock everything for you. You don't have to stress. It's like having resources on reserve. Michael's saying get MREs. You know, me and Steven talking about ramen noodles and Progresso soup. And now I'm telling you, get gasoline. Change your physical address on your driver's license to a post office box. Prepare to live off the grid as much as possible, right? The last generation is the last generation of true independence. Big Brother is not just watching. Big Brother is stalking you. When we start talking about how they're going to draft your ass, you really want to make it harder for them to find you. You really do. So even though you got your social media handles, this, that, and the third, your smartest thing to do is get you a VPN and don't let these motherfuckers find you. Because when they do, whatever they have you do after that, like Jason Bourne, you are not gonna like it. and when the situation gets worse, all us old heads, you're gonna say, "Oh, he paranoid." Motherfucker, I told you so. I tried to warn you. Yes, didn't listen. Next time, when a grown folks tell you to make certain changes that detaches you from direct interaction with conflict, your ass will start making some damn changes. Right? Now, that's all I got for you guys for tonight. We actually did make it to 220, 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's fantastic. I did tell you I had a lot for y'all tonight, but it was a lot of different things. So, like I said, tomorrow we're going to be talking about the special education situation, and I also said I was going to phase into the script the information about the ADHD laws that just went into effect. So I'm going to be adding that into tomorrow's script. So make sure that you guys stay tuned for tomorrow. I'm going to be trying to make sure I get that up over the next 12 hours so that it'll be available for tomorrow's show. So, Steven, I don't think it is up there right now. So it is not one of the ones that you already tagged. So by tomorrow afternoon, you want to go over there and double check that you hit that notification button so that you know that when the show does go live that you'll be there. But as you know, the first 15, 20 minutes, I ain't hit the main topic anyway. So you know when I start, when you slide in, you'll just be getting here about 15 minutes after I started the show. So, you know, when I see you, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. But you'll see Tuesday and Wednesday going up. I'm going to try to say I'm going to get it up there the next hour. At least get the show listed on YouTube in the next hour. But I have to take the dog for a walk first. But then after that, you know, all the rest of the week is already prepared for you guys. And we're going to continue to follow what's going on with the Strait. We're going to continue to follow what's going on with the discussions because I want to see how long I'm going to be able to get the 20% dividends on this fucking stock portfolio before the market shifts and the interest rates go down. You know, I'm trying to make the most money out of this chaos as possible. The more I can put on this shit, the better it is for me. What you heard. Everybody else like, oh, you know, gas prices is going up. Shit, I filled my gas tank once 4 months ago. I fill my gas tank up on Thursday, and that's gonna be the last time I fill my gas tank up for another couple months. I ain't gonna, you know, so the world be over before the next time I need some goddamn gas. Then I got 2 vehicles with gas in them. I don't really gotta do shit. I can switch cars. Fuck. He said you should have got that 30 in your stash account today. I got mine today. Oh, I'm glad you told me about it. So you got the promo, which means I'm gonna end up being shown the promo because when I did earlier today, it didn't tell me nothing. But if you got it, then that means that they recognize it with you, and now they're going to go through the referral process, and they're going to notify me that I qualified for giving you the things. So, like I did tell you, this is why. So Steven can verify, y'all. When I told y'all go into the membership, y'all get this information, y'all click the links, y'all sign everything up, you put your money up there. It's $3 a month for the basic membership. For the stash, it's a ETF transaction scenario, so it's a lot better than buying and holding contracts, which are like 100 shares of a specific stock. You can just put up with ETFs a specific monetary value towards stocks and still get the benefit of the dividends. And you can do it directly off your cell phone with fintech. And they give you $30 for signing up through the promo code that's in it. And the fact is that even though it's $3 a month, which is $36 a year, if you do the annual membership of $32 once a year, they're giving you a $30 credit because you use a promo code, which means that the first year is like $2. First time you make $2 of cash back on the Stash app, the platform pays for itself. You make more money out of the first year than the yearly membership. You see the value in it before you have to renew your membership. And that's one of the things I was telling you, like you're gonna see so many results. The information I put out here for y'all is for y'all's benefits, but this is public knowledge that has always been out there. And not too many people knew that it was like that. And when we start pulling all of this information together, that's when people start thinking, oh, snap. If I just change the way I do business, guess what? Funny thing, you will start becoming less identified on the internet when you make that change to a damn post office box. I told you. Do a Google search and you find out they know all your dirty secrets. But when you're attached to a post office box, do a Google search, you don't find too much of nothing unless you are continuously in the legal system, getting arrested for shit, having criminal convictions and stuff where they have an updated criminal record. That's like the only thing that will come up. But if you haven't seen an arrest in the last 5, 10, 15 years, if you've never been arrested before and your address is a business, they not even going to list you because they're going to be looking at that like, oh, that can't be real. And really, public records is a collection of information from a third-party entity that is making a profit off of projecting your information on the internet. Not because, yes, people will pay to get your information, but those entities make more money for the person that they produce the public information for, paying to have it taken down. So if the information isn't accurate to begin with, they're not going to post it, which means that your information is not going to be online, which means that you are off the grid. And in an era where 20 and 30-year-olds, well, 15 and 18 and 19-year-olds, when they become 20 and 30-year-olds, are codependent to social media and codependent to Google searches, if they can't find you on the internet, you are a ghost. And Gen Zs is the last generation of ghosts that exists. If you were born before 2009, you are the last generation of ghosts that exists. And if you don't acclimate to social media, you will not become found. You will stay a ghost. And that will benefit you to prevent you from dealing with stalkers, to prevent you from dealing with people coming after your success, to prevent people from taking frivolous legal actions against you. It benefits you wholeheartedly. And that's one of the reasons why I talk to you guys about it. Because if there's a third entity that has your physical address and the trust has your access, it's like, how the fuck do they find you? And then if all of your stuff is owned by a third party trust that's leased to a business that's leased to you, when you do get your hands on it, that ain't even your shit. So how are they going to find you? Like, the buck stops in all of these different legal barriers. And that's why I tell you all about them, because now you can make yourself a millionaire and nobody knows where you are. Unless you were like some of those people that didn't have no common sense, putting your house on social media like cribs, nobody knows where you are. Nobody knows what you have. So I appreciate you letting me know about that, Stephen. I'm going to go take a look and see if they updated my account and let me know that the transaction was complete. But like I said, it's a benefit for you. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up tonight's show by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Oh, Stephen, before I walk out, I did see your thing. I am going to try to see what I can do about putting together something, hopefully this week, to help you understand about what's going on with the app. But specifically, real quick, I can tell you, based on the information that I have put into the membership, if you were to put in the ticker of the stocks that I told you, so you don't have to spell the name of the whole stock out, you could just put in the ticker, like DHT Holdings has DHT, or Chevron has CVX. If you just type in the ticker into the search bar, it'll find the company for you. You click the name, it takes you to the drop down, and then you hit the invest button. With the invest button, it's going to have an area where you either get the money directly from your bank account if you haven't put the money on your portfolio yet, or out of the portfolio, how much of the portfolio money do you want to put on this particular stock? Based on the percentages that I gave you, based on the amount of money you're willing to invest, you put those in there. If you're going to put up $100 and it says 13%, you put $13 on the stock, and you just do it like that for each one of the stocks that's up there. If you're putting up $1,000 and it says 13%, that might be $130, but you're going to put that up there and then hit submit. And then the next trade day, which would be first thing in the morning, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, they're going to do that trade while you're asleep or while you're at work. And then by the end of the day, you're going to see that the stock, they're going to send you an email that says, hey, your stock got bought. But you can check the app and see that you bought the stock. It's on your thing and it's there. It's going to show the rises and falls. And the next dividend date, you're going to see the dividends distributions on your account as transactions of dividends. It's going to be listed as dividends. Now, since you're doing buy and holds instead of buy and sells, all you have to do is pick up the 16 or 17 stocks that I told you and just hold them and then add money to them whenever you feel like it. And you can do it one of two ways. You can either put the money on the app first and then divide it up whenever you feel like it, or because it is directly linked to your bank account, if you're leaving the money, let's say you linked your savings account instead of your checking account to the thing, which if you link your checking account first, you can always link your savings account second. As long as it's a bank account that is attached to you, you can link it to your stash app. You can link your savings account to it and then upload from your savings account where you put money into your savings account as an emergency fund. And then you decide out of whatever's in your savings account, well, I might take $1,000 and put up there now because I got like $5,000 in my savings account and I don't want to leave 5,000 in there. I just want to take 1,000 out and leave $4,000 in there. You can now take $1,000 and just select specific stocks and they'll charge it directly to your savings account with no additional charge. And the exact dollar for dollar value will come out of your savings account, go directly onto those stocks, and you will have those stocks. That's the two ways you can do it. So you can either upload the money to the account and then distribute it, or elect to put a certain quantity of monetary value on a stock and then they charge your bank account directly. Either way, you will have the stock. And then, if you're trying to re-up on it, you can do it the same way. So, and the other half, since you're not selling any stocks, when they do dividend distribution, you can do one of two things. You can activate DRIP, which allows for them to automatically reinvest it into the stock that it came out of, or you can let it sit there and then you can manually put it onto whichever stocks have the lowest values based on your rebalancing system that I gave you. Now, if you want the cash, all you got to do is hit transfer to bank. Whatever available cash that is sitting on your portfolio that will transfer to bank, you hit transfer to bank, select that amount, and transfers to your bank. 2 to 3 business days, and then it'll clear your bank account, and then all of a sudden you've got cash. So if you're putting your principal from your bank account onto your stash account, and then you're taking your dividends and reinvesting it, that'll grow your portfolio faster. But if you're putting your principal onto your stash account and then taking your dividends and putting it into your checking account to take care of stuff, you can do it that way as well. Like, for example, paying your credit cards with your brokerage account and taking the cash and putting it on the principal of your brokerage account, and then taking your debt and charging it to your credit cards so that you can start working on building your assets and then paying your debts with your profits. So your principal is always there. Depending on how much you put down versus how much you get back versus how much you owe, you can start that cycle now. And then you will start seeing a larger quantity of principal, which gives you a larger dividend, which gives you a larger quantity of money to put it on to paying off your debts. Is how I'm investing until I buy a house. You should invest even after you buy a house, because one of the things that happens depending on when you go to buy the house, if you have a large enough quantity of money in your brokerage account, instead of withdrawing that money as a down payment towards the house, you can leverage that money as capital, a line of credit, to just put cash on the house and then have the brokerage account pay off that. If you want to borrow cash from a bank, well, I got 30 grand. Well, you would have it usually when you have 100 grand in your brokerage account, you can say, well, let me get 50 grand, and then I can take that 50 grand and put it down on the house, and then my brokerage account can pay the 50 grand back to the brokerage account, and then I can just pay on my own mortgage. But if you don't have that 100 grand there, you can buy on the house, but because you're showing that you have this brokerage account that gives you money back, you can show that as additional income. So you got your primary paycheck, your secondary paycheck from your second job, your side hustle. Then you have your brokerage account as sources of income. And that is going to be offsetting your ability to have your debt to income, because your debt to income is your income minus debts that you hold, including student loan payments. Even if your student loan payments are deferred, which means that if from a buyer standpoint, your debt to income is typically less than 40%, you're likely to qualify for the loan. Now, some of the things they're not going to tell you about buying a house, the closing cost negotiated between you and the seller is not the same as the down payment cost for closing between you and the lender, where the lender may still charge you a fee. even though all other closing costs are paid for by the buyer, as far as the title company and all of this other stuff, you may still have to put a down payment down with the lender, and you have to have extra capital for that. So even if you have down payment assistance programs you can sign up for, even though you might be able to get other qualifications based on your financial status, your age, if you're a veteran or not. All of these things may work in your favor with covering certain costs, but then the additional monetary cost that is still needed might be another like a couple $1,000s here and there. Then again, you're also going to have to pay appraisal costs. That's non-negotiable. That's something that your lender is going to make you do, which has nothing to do with a survey scenario where you survey the property and look and see what needs to be fixed, right? So that's a whole nother issue, which means that you may have to spend up to $1,500 for somebody to survey the property to make sure that there's no damage that needs fixed to get your buyer's price. You have to pay another $600 to $1,000 for somebody to appraise the value of your property. Then you might have to spend another $2,000 or $3,000 to your lender, just for your lender to secure the loan, which means you might have to have an extra $10,000 on the side for your lender that cannot be worked into the deal between you and the seller. And then you still have to negotiate the closing costs, the external closing costs, such as title companies and everything to that effect. So truthfully, when they say that you need that extra 20% or more to cover the cost of closing on a house, like, they're not lying. Like, that money is there, but the lender is not going to talk to you about that. The first thing they're going to do is make sure that you qualify with your credit. After that, they're not going to answer. You can have questions. They're going to tell you you ain't got to worry about that right now because you have to find a house. All of this stuff depends on the house, right? But they're not going to say, well, you will have to pay for an appraiser. You will have to put an additional down payment down with the borrower. I mean, with the lender. They're not going to say that you will have to pay for the survey, that you will have to pay for when they survey the property as opposed to inspecting the property for damage. Like, you got to pay for all of these other things. They're not going to tell you that when you first apply for the loan. They're just going to see if you qualify for the loan, pre-qualification, and then that's it. After that pre-qualification, then you pick a house, and then they're going to try to negotiate a close. Once they negotiate the close, then they're going to start going through getting all your financial records to prove that you have the income that you say that you have. And then after they verify all of that information, then they're going to start talking about extra expenses along the way, which are always going to be surprise hidden expenses that were not discussed with the original lending process. They do not disclose all of these details in the beginning. It is always additional surprise costs. So when you decide to go and buy yourself a house, you want to make sure that you have an extra, at least $5,000 set aside, if not $10,000 or $15,000 set aside, so that when they start negotiating the deal, even if you qualify for down payment assistance situations, that you have extra money set aside for unexpected expenses towards the deal. Then you have to start covering the cost of shipping all your stuff to wherever your house is going to be. Is I want to learn how to buy on the tax sales, learning how to look for liens and things like that. I have covered that on this platform quite a few times. You want to Google tax liens. One of the things that sucks about that, Michael has put up on the show a couple times a website, and I can get it from Michael and put it into the membership. Again, a website that you can go to for tax liens. But one of the problems with tax liens that they don't discuss with you is that after you get the property, you still have to go through the process of foreclosing on the house to get the title for the house. And you have to first make sure that the property still exists, because even though there is a lien against the property may not be lived in at this moment. And sometimes the property has been burned down or whatever the case may be, mowed over, covered in grass, like the house doesn't exist anymore. And if it does, it's in bad shape. When you take control over the property, you take control over all of the code enforcement violations on the property. Some cities and states might wipe away those violations upon the new owner, but some do not, which means you have to pay to fix the property and bring it up to code after you secure ownership. So first thing you do is you pay off the taxes on it if nobody claims it, and then after nobody claims it, then you foreclose on it. once you foreclose on it, now you're a legal owner of it. Now that you're the legal owner of it, that's when you have to pay for all of the code violations and bring the house up to code. And all of this has to be done before you move into it. The houses that are move-in ready with a tax lien on it are in the auction and typically bought by people with deep pockets. So any property that is not in an auction right now is a property that nobody saw or nobody wants, which also means that it might not be worth selling. It might be livable, but it might not be move-in ready, which means that you will foreclose on it. You will have to mortgage it in some way, shape, or form and repair it before you can live in it. But you can still get a $500,000 house for 50 grand because of the taxes, the back taxes. I've also been looking at the Detroit Land Bank lately. I have to look at them because there's different states. There's different listings in different places. But yes, you can do, if you do a tax deed state, not a tax lien state, because tax lien states don't allow you to collect the deed. But if you do a tax deed state, you put your money down on the taxes of a property and you can collect the deed, but you do got to pay the cost of court to get that house. You have to get the house up to code quicker, or they take it back. Auction based. That's right. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. So you got to know what the fuck is wrong with this house before you put your money down on it. And if you don't have the money to fix it, you can't just buy the house and hold it for a couple years and bring it up to code eventually. You have to buy it. And then immediately after you get legal control over it, bring landscapers, bring contractors, and start bringing this bad boy up to code. Even if it's not livable, whatever the code violations are, high grass, trash in the yard, whatever the case may be, that would have caused a code violation, whatever made the house an eyesore, you have to at least do the bare minimum to get that out of the way, because they will keep hitting your house with code violations and seize the house a second time. And you would have lost all the money that you spent in getting the house. So you got to really look at what it costs to do that. One of the things I would do is I would the capital to be able to afford to go and get one of these properties with your profits from your brokerage account. I would use those profits to put down on a property when and only when you have the cost to foreclose on the property and the cost of repairs. And the reason why I say that, for minor repairs, landscaping and stuff to that effect. So you might need like $2,000 to fix the exterior of the house in order for it not to have code violations. And then, even though it might not be livable, it at least isn't an eyesore. And then I would put my money down and go and create that property. Now, once you do that, then you have the time to mortgage the property and go and renovate the property from the inside out. And you can put that property for sale or use it as a rental property. That's how I would do it. Now, if you did it that way and you get it established, and you start generating a revenue on that property, then you can use that property as an additional form of capital when you go to do it again with another property. If you set up an LLC and you're doing this under an LLC, you can actually start picking these houses up quicker, because one, you can find a person that is in real estate that has a real estate license, because you don't need a real estate license to be a real estate investor, and they can pick these properties up for you. They can have more knowledge of the quality of the property and the costs and expenses of the properties, and then they can pick these properties up for you. You put your money down on it, you gain access to the property, and now somebody else can come and renovate the property and set it up for a tenant, and then you got a third person that's collecting a rent on it and doing a general maintenance on it, and now you have a growing real estate investment business where you can do it house by house, and then after a certain period of time, you can probably take out, depending on the quantity of equity involved in each house, you could probably take out a second mortgage and consolidate all of your real estate properties into one big loan that puts you into the qualifications for $1 million apartment complex. And then you can go and pick up that $1 million apartment complex and then start using that $1 million apartment complex to pay back all the mortgages, which allows you to expand your assets quicker. But in that dynamic, that's still like a 5-year, 10-year plan, because you're going to go from one 50 grand investment that's going to take you a while to get, so that you can get that first property, and then that first property turning you over an income for 1 to 2 years, and then that allows you to be confident to go and do it a second time. And then the second time you do it, now you got 2 properties, and then another 1 to 2 years, which is 5 years minimum. And then on that 5th year, now you're like, all right, let's consolidate all of these. And instead of getting a third single family home, we're going to put all this stuff together, put a little bit of extra cash down and go get this apartment complex. And now the apartment complex is going to pay for all of this stuff and have a property manager manage all of that stuff. And that will help you carry a lot of the stuff that you need to carry, where you're now dealing with residual income. Special shout out to Aztec. That's a lot of debt to carry. That's the $1 million model. That's the multi-billion dollar model. You carry the debt, because if you're carrying the debt, the profit is a tax deduction. For every $250,000 house that you got a $100,000 loan on, you're carrying $100,000 worth of debt. If you made $100,000 worth of profit off of that house, you're going to have $100,000 worth of deductible taxation on that property, which means that the money pocketed is not going to require capital to Uncle Sam. Sounds scary. To the less informed, yes, but it's the cost of doing business. It is one of the quickest ways legally to make yourself a multimillionaire, is to leverage your assets for the debt and generate income off of those assets. That's what the millionaire mindset is all about. It is not how much it costs. It is how much you're going to make after what you spend, which is the cost of doing business. As long as you're making more than what you're spending, and what you're making is enough to be a satisfactory ends to the means, that's the cost of doing business. When you're drawing back 20% or more, you're doing a good job. So you put up 100 grand, and your 100 grand is putting back 20 grand a year. That's a 20% return. 5 years, you got all your money back. You're going to keep this property for 20 years. 5 years, you got your money back. But if you're 100 grand in a debt and you're getting 20 grand a year off of this property, you're not paying taxes on that 20 grand, because you have 100 grand worth of debt that you're carrying as a tax deduction. And for each property, that if you have 10 properties, 10 100 grand debts on 10 $250,000 properties, that's $2.5 million worth of property with $1 million worth of debt. That could give you $1 million a year worth of tax deductions, because you're carrying $1 million worth of debt on paper, which means you could turn $1 million worth of profits and not have to pay taxes on it. And if your overhead is 40%, you got 60% of profits that are untaxed. That's the millionaire mindset, you know? So imagine getting $600,000 a year tax-free money because you got $3 million worth of real estate property that has $1.5 million worth of mortgage against it. Think about that for a second. That's almost 3 years worth of $600,000 a year. And before you pay it all off, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to remortgage the property for another $1 million property. And if you can mortgage the property for $500,000 at 20%, you're likely going to try to hit yourself like a $10 million property. Which also means that your first property might be a single family home. Your second and third property might be a single family home. Your fourth property is going to be $1 million apartment complex. Your fifth property is going to be a $10 million apartment complex. You might decide to do another $2 million, $1 and $3 million. You still got $5 million worth of assets. And if you have $5 million worth of assets with $2.5 million worth of debt against it, you still got $2 million worth of deductions that you can offset year to year, where you could easily make $500,000 a year or more off of those apartment complexes and not have to worry about taxation. That's the end goal. And that's what and guess what? If you're making this kind of money, what are you doing? Nothing, because you're making enough money to pay everybody else for that. What is safe leverage on real estate? Well, they allow you to do up to 71% on the property after repair value, or AVR, or the actual retail value, either one. Because if you just bought it, it'll be the retail value. But if it is the after repair value, if you've held it for a number of years, like what it would go for in the market right now today after you repair it, is up to, most places do like 70%. Now, if you're thinking about on the quote unquote safe side, you want to do half. And I told you that safe leveraging on a brokerage account is less than 50%. Safe leveraging on Bitcoin is less than 40%. Safe leveraging on any portfolio that has the ability to drop more than 20% is to take out 50%, because if it does drop, it still hasn't reached the threshold of your investment. So if you have note, every time I gave you an example, I told you $250,000 house, take out 100 grand. So out of 250,000, you take out 100 grand. That's less than 50%. If the value of the house goes from $250,000 down to $200,000, you still only borrow 50% of the value of the house. They're not gonna call you on that, right? And that's why I tell you all these things. And remember, I told you, I said what I said. I said $3 million worth of real estate, and I told you $1.5 million. I said, $5 or $10 million worth of real estate, and I said what, $2.5 to $3 million. Notice each time I gave you larger and larger numbers, I was always telling you 50, 40, 30% of the value of the total quantity of assets that you have. You're still pulling large numbers, but even if the values of these properties change, you're still not in the threshold of being underwater with your loan, meaning that the value of your asset is less than the value of your debt, even with inflation. And that's one of the things that you have to pay attention to. You want to do about 50%. Is that, can you write off upkeep expenses on properties? Well, if you have a real estate investment trust, upkeep on properties is part of the overhead, and overhead is part of the expenses. If you are a single family homeowner, you're not going to be able to write that off because that's just the cost of living there. So it really depends on how you do that. If you're going to establish yourself a real estate investment business, whatever you have to pay to make money off of the asset, that is an expense on your overhead, and that expense on your overhead is usually deducted from your taxation. So for those individuals who have an LLC under their name, and they're going to pass it through themselves when they're a W-2 worker, or if they're going to pass it through themselves as a 1099 worker and use those deductions to not have to owe taxes on non-taxable income, or no, taxable income where you didn't pay for W-2s, because if you're a 1099 worker or a non-W-2 worker, then you're in a situation where you owe taxes at the end of the year, but you don't pay the taxes at the end of the year because the deductions from your LLC from the expenses of running a business is deducted from your tax bill. So if you had a $50,000 tax bill that you owed for $200,000 worth of profits that you made, but you had $2,000 or $60,000 worth of tax deductions from your LLC that included maintenance on the properties that the business maintained in order to turn that profit, then those deductions would end up having you have a $0 tax bill, because deductions does not give you money back. Credits give you money back. If you have a tax credit, not a deduction, a tax credit, if your balance is zero, anything over that balance is a return. A deduction means that if you owe money, then it will bring it down to zero. But if your deduction is larger than your bill, like I said, $50,000 worth of debt, $60,000 worth of deductions, you owe nothing, but you don't get that $10,000 worth of credit back. Now, depending on what the debt is and whether or not it can roll over to next year's tax bill, really depends on how you operate your business and what tax codes apply to that. But yes, if you're doing things through your business, you can write off a lot of things. The upkeep on the properties, the upkeep on the vehicles, the mortgages on the properties, the loans on the vehicles, leasing the vehicles, a lot of things that you can get off of a business you can't get off of your personal 1040 easy filings. But another thing that is a huge factor, LLCs do not give you deductions for charitable donations, but your personal income taxes does. So a C corporation will give you deductions on charitable donations up to 10%, but your personal ability to invest in charitable donations can give you, from what I believe, after COVID, up to 100% of your money can be donated to a charitable cause, which is a non-profitable entity as registered by the IRS. So non-profitable entities is like a 501c3 company that you own, that's or not own, but operate, that is a nonprofit entity or a school or something like that, a church or something like that, that is a nonprofit publicly funded entity, that is a tax deduction situation. And then you can benefit from that up to 10% for a C corporation, but up to, I believe, 100% of the money that you donate. You can donate up to 100% of your money on a personal self applied company. But if you are doing an LLC partnering on your personal income, you won't get the tax deduction from the LLC. You'll get the tax deduction from your personal, and you'll get the charitable donation credits from your personal, but you'll get the tax deductions from the business from the LLC, and that'll be combined the same when you apply. So you just got to remember what you're doing. And then if you have more than one business, you would have to list each one of them and the deductions from one and deductions from the other, and then you might end up with several different coverages from several different things. And you really gotta sometimes you might need a CPA or somebody like that that can handle it for you when you got a lot of stuff that's very complex, when you're including brokerage accounts, international investing, and all of this other stuff. But just from the simple standpoint of doing it yourself, starting with 1 to 3 properties and working your way up, yeah, you can do a lot of things. But if you want to second guess it, double check it, and go and talk to one of your tax agents. Tax season just passed, but you can still work on that. And you can talk to tax agents and they can give you a lot of information on that. He says, I will stay with the public schools I went to. I don't trust anyone else with the donation. That's what I'm trying to tell you, bro. If you went to a specific school and you made yourself successful now, or you just love the school that you went to or whatever, that's the best place to go. All you got to do is just go to the principal or whatever and be like, hey, I want to donate to the school. Give me a voucher. Give me a receipt that shows that I donated to the school. That's all you got to say. Anything over $300, they got to do it. But anything under $300, if you ask for that receipt, they show proof that you're giving them money. And then you put all of those receipts together, and then you send that to the IRS and say, I gave this entity X number of dollars, point blank, period. And then you get that deduction on your taxation. So I would do it for the schools, even though there's other places you can do it, because you can do it with the church, you can do it with you can do it for cancer research, whatever the fuck you want to do it for. But because all of those things are charitable scenarios, but cancer research, like 97 cents on every dollar that you give goes to the staff. Only 3 to 7% of it goes towards the actual research. So you're not really benefiting from anything. And right now in our current economy, in my personal opinion, the kids are going to benefit from public donations to the schools more than any other thing that we got going on in America that can receive a donation. Fucking Relay for Life, breast cancer, heart cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, no matter how important that stuff is. Your kid's education is not government funded the way it used to be. And the only way that your child is going to succeed is if you put money on your kid's education. So instead of riding that wave and saying, fucking, I'm going to send my kid to school and whatever happens, happens. No, let me call the school and let me start doing a fucking payment plan with the public school. I'm going to send y'all money every month and y'all going to give me a receipt every month. And I'm going to send this shit to y'all so that y'all can do what y'all got to do. He said, well, what's the minimum amount that you feel is worth using as a tax deduction? Well, that's a weird question to ask, because you're supposed to put if you're going to file taxes, you're supposed to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, or just don't file. That's like the two choices. So when you are filing taxes, you're going to put all of the money that you have paid for expectations, and then you're going to put how much that you've made. And then if you're doing it with TurboTax, it'll tell you how much you owe. But if you keep good records and go to H&R Block, they'll tell you how much you get. You know what I mean? So when you ask me, like, what's the minimum amount that you feel is worth using as a tax deduction, it's not what I feel. Any amount that you use as a tax deduction, all the way down to $1, all the way down to a penny, is tax deductible. You get a voucher when you start donating over $300, but you can ask for one for anything less than $300. So you said $300 and up. Okay. Well, anything over $300, the entity that you're donating to will give you a voucher. But anything under $300, they don't have to give you a voucher, but you can ask for one to show proof that you donated there. He said, I think I asked it wrong. Well, you may have, but just for clarification, you whatever amount of money that you donated, honestly, um, if it is under $300, you might be able to claim it. I wouldn't lie about it if I did, but you might be able to claim it without a proof donation for something other under $300. Legally over $300, there's supposed to be a voucher attached to it, and you should be able to show proof if they decided to audit you for it, because you don't want to lie about the amount of money that you're donating to any entity, because fraudulent filings is worse than not filing at all. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So what I mentioned about the $300 saying is that after you start giving $300 or more to a single entity, they're supposed to give you a written receipt that shows proof that you gave that amount. Anything under that, they don't have to give it to you, but you should ask for it anyway, because if you don't got a lot of money, but you can give a school $250 every month, not likely will they just give you a receipt that you gave the $250. They need to say thank you, and that's it. But if you gave them $250 every month for 10 months, you gave them $2,500. They're not gonna double back and contact you and say, hey, you gave me $2,500 this year, let me give you a voucher for that. So if every time you go, if you give them $250 and ask for a receipt of some kind of voucher that shows proof that you gave them this money, then you can take all 12 of your $250 distributions, give it to your IRS agent, and then when they're like, okay, well, he did, $3,000 this year, and we're going to take that $3,000 off his taxation, off of his tax bill. See what I'm saying? A college is a profit. A college is a for-profit. So he said, do colleges act the same way if they're nonprofit? If they're not nonprofit? No, colleges are not nonprofits. Colleges are for-profits. Deductions are for nonprofit entities. So if you find a government-funded community college where the 90%, well, not 90%, all of the money that it gets, it spends and it doesn't turn a profit, which you can find out by talking to the dean. Is your community college a nonprofit community college or not? And then if they verify that the community college is in fact, because so it's not going to be a 4-year university like Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, because those are for-profit entities. But say the community college of Denver, a community college is usually paid for by the community, which is funded by the government, and they spend all the money that they get and they don't have any money left over, right? That's a nonprofit. So if that community college, you wanted to invest in a community college, you got to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to give you guys funding, but I want to get a receipt for it. And you take that, you give it to the government, and it's going to work the same way. He said, I like to donate to the March, etc. Small quantity adding up to $300. It's all documented, but I guess does that quantity make a big difference in tax deductions? I mean, okay, so here's the thing. You asked because you never claimed it. Okay, from this is one of the reasons why I asked about the receipts, or I stated about the receipts. If you have a receipt, it shows the date that you donated. And from the date that you donated, you have 5 years, 5 tax seasons to claim that document. After that, it's no good. So if you got a receipt, we're in 2026. If you got a receipt from a donation in 2024 that you didn't claim on your taxes ever between 2024 and 2026, if you didn't claim it on your tax season this year, then when you do your taxes January of 2027, that receipt you claim on your taxes and you send it in like, hey, I did that, right? And now you're good. That's why I told you, if I was giving $10 a month to somebody, they don't have to give me a voucher, but I can ask them for one. And if I gave them $150 for the year, I can take those 12 vouchers and 2 years later claim it on a tax thing and say, hey, let me get that. And they'll give it to me. But Can I say, well, I've been given like $5 at the cash register at Walmart to the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and it's not, I don't even know if it's on the fucking receipt or not, but let me 20 years later claim that on my taxes because I got like thousands of those. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. But if like Steven's talking about, he wants to donate to his local school that he grew up in. He might want to donate to the local college that he went to before he went to the current college he's going to now. If you're going to donate to publicly funded entities that are not turning profits, like I said, community colleges, high school, middle school, elementary schools, that's not the same as daycare centers because that is an actual profit. Those situations, if it is a publicly funded nonprofit entity, that's usually a publicly funded because it's funded by the government and that service is provided to the public, nonprofit entity, that's where you go. And before you donate, you verify that they are a nonprofit entity that is funded by the government. And that is when you say, okay, well then because of that, I want to donate money to you, right? And give me a voucher, right? Now, you can also go a different route. And you can take the identification of the establishment that you want to donate to. You can contact your IRS or local tax agent or whatever and verify if this entity is in fact documented with the IRS as a nonprofit entity or nonprofit government funded entity. If it would qualify for the tax deduction, you can do it that way. You can take the name, address, and all information that you can find about the school or the university that you want to donate to and contact somebody in the IRS or a tax agent that can contact somebody in the IRS to verify that this entity, if you donated money to it, would it qualify for a deduction before you make the first dollar donation. And then once you get that verification, then they're going to tell you the same thing. Yes, you can, but you're going to need proof that you did it. Then you have that confidence before you give your first dollar that if I donate to this place, I'll get a tax deduction. Now you know, okay, this place I'm going to give money to so that I don't have to give money to Donald Trump for blowing up Iran. And now you're good. You know what I mean? But it requires you to think before you act and do your research. All right. So this isn't about getting over on the system. This is about doing what's best for you and doing what's best for your community. Because the changes that you make today in the way that you make decisions and the changes that you make today about how you spend your money is going to change the way your society functions. And, Steven's 36, I'm 42 and, Michael's like 72. And, those of us, if we end up with kids in the next 5 years, that's in this society. The way the society functions is going to be based on our decisions from before those kids were born. So if society sucks, it's our fault. Okay, if the system sucks, it's not the man that made the system suck. It's the 385 other Americans in that society that allowed it to suck. It's not the one guy at the top, right? It's everybody at the bottom that made a bad choice collectively that allows for the whole system to be shit. So if I tell everybody one person at a time, like, hey, if you change the way you do things, your kids and your grandkids will not be in as shitty of a society as you grew up in if you think that any part of your society fucking sucks. So you make changes by changing where you spend your money and changing how you invest in yourself and invest in your society so that you change how your society will be able to invest in your kids and your grandkids. Because since the Department of Education is not there, Small Business Administration is giving money to the school. Not the same. So they're not if they had a big ass budget before, they got a small ass budget now. And to offset that small ass budget, you got to give to the school. Since you don't want them to raise taxes to be able to cover this fucking cost anyway, why allow a Democrat to get into office and raise taxes to put the money back into the school so you can be pissed off at the Democratic president when you could just give to the fucking school in the first place and get a tax deduction from the Republican president? So instead of saying Democrats are dumb, just be honest. The average American is fucking stupid about where they put their fucking money. And that's the reason why the shit sucks. Not the guy that got elected. The people that elected him fucked up the rotation. The guy at the top is not the problem. It's everybody below him that's the damn problem. The guy at the top is one step away from being a fucking figurehead. He's doing macro level changes. one of us Americans do micro level changes. And the micro level changes are doing the ripple effects that turns a drop of water into a tidal wave, to a tsunami. That's us. The guy at the top. That guy at the top can't do shit if the people at the bottom don't apply themselves. Why do you think a mandatory draft since 1980, the average American didn't know it was mandatory? Because 386 million people are like, fuck that, I ain't signing up for shit. Right? So what did the guy at the top do? Instead of saying putting all the Americans in prison for refusing to enlist, he said, no, let's just automatically register everybody that gives us their personal information voluntarily. Now everybody's fucking enlisted, whether they want to be or not. Why? Because the guy at the top cannot control everybody at the bottom. But everybody at the bottom can control how shit happens at the top. So we just got to change the way we do shit. That's what this podcast is about. Changing the way we do shit. First person accountability. He said, damn, bro, you know your stuff. Yes, sir, I do. Yes. And I will not come here with anything less than informed information that you can do your research backed by asking a Google lady. And then after you finish doing what you do, you come back and be like, I verified it. What he said will happen the way he said it will happen. And I'm going to try that and benefit my neighborhood. I'm going to try that and I'm going to benefit my sister's kids. I'm going to try that. I'm going to benefit my cousin's kids. I'm going to benefit my ex-girlfriend's kids with her baby daddy. I'm going to do something for my society so the shit ain't as bad for the next generation. And one of the reasons why that's really for you, because I know some people are like, fuck that, I'm going to look out for myself. If you're 30 or 40 years old, 30, 40, 50 years old right now, in 20 or 30 years, you're going to be part of the disability group, which makes a lot of sense for you to take care of the next generation right now, because when you become elderly, the 20 and 30-year-olds that don't know what the fuck are going on are going to be 40, 50, and 60 years old running the country when you're 60 and 70 years old at the mercy of the next generation. So if you don't want a stupid country, pay for them not to be stupid now, so that in 20 years, when you're depending on them, they're not fucking it up. That is why you're doing it. It's indirect selfishness. I'm going to make them successful so that they don't fuck up my future. You just follow, subscribe for those nightly shows and consider the membership. Damn right. Aztec should have already. I think Aztec subscribed to the channel, but he didn't look into that membership. You need to look into that fucking membership, because this stuff is going in there. This stuff is going into the membership. I got a lot of things behind the scenes that's taking up a lot of my time, and I'm trying to maintain some sleep and balance the budget. But at the end of the day, you know, a lot of stuff is going into this membership. And when I get a little bit of free time over the next week or two, you're going to see the membership is going to get flooded with everything I haven't put in there over the past 3 weeks. Especially once we get this internet situation worked out, the membership is going to be flooded with so much information, and it's archived. So that means that you can just scroll back and look at everything that's in there. And you might even be able to go into the search bar and type some stuff up into the search bar, and videos and posts from the membership will pop up for those individuals that are in the membership. We're like, damn, he put this shit up 3 years ago. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So when I talk about it 3 years later, I told you so. It's a thing and it still exists and you can benefit from it. The only thing that changes over time is the process. It is always going to be there for you. You just have to go back and figure out how to do it. Now, again, that's all I got for you guys tonight. I'm going to say it again because I said it a while back. Ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I'm going to tell you guys again that you have to find ways to proactively find the things that are inside of your control. And then out of the things you don't like, you want to put forth extra effort to change the things that you don't like, so that you can improve your life and improve your standard of living, improve your decision-making skills, which improves your financial accessibility to money. This gives you the capabilities to then navigate around the things that are outside of your control. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women. Likewise, taking this information and applying it to yourselves, but also pinpointing your 20 and 30-year plans on where you want to be at and how you're going to get there, right? Which doesn't require you to be codependent towards somebody else. Building your future. Roadmap that shit. Reverse engineer it back to the steps you need to take today to get to where you want to be at tomorrow, right? And then stay diligent to that outcome. as you attain and progress towards your goals, you keep your eyes and ears open for the type of man with a good personality, characteristics, decision-making skills, integrity, drive, determination, motivation to not only succeed with his goals, but also succeed with yours. In that dynamic, you want to make sure that when you partner with somebody, that person and you are going to be successful together. I tell you guys every night that 2 people can make it to $1 million faster than 1. But 1 person can take $1 million dream and bankrupt you in no time flat. Making a bad choice in a long-term partner or making bad choices in short-term gratification can catastrophically destroy your long-term success. And that's one of the reasons why I tell you guys to make plans today for your next year. You're not looking at this person because they're cute today. You're looking at this person because they will make you successful next generation. They will maintain your success in a decade. Okay? It's not about how cute she is today. It's not about how handsome he is today or how much money he's spending on you today. What matters is he going to be spending all your wealth on entertainment in 10 years, or is she going to be blowing your money with another dude in 15 years? That's what matters. You don't want a wasteful person on your drive to financial success. Right? Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You don't want a wasteful person on your drive to success. You don't want a homie riding your coattails where they're putting less efforts into the success of their life and always codependently hanging on your shoulder. Oh, homie, I need X, Y, and Z. I need. Where you're taking your income and you're subsidizing their bullshit. That will also lead you to failure. You don't want to do that. You want to maintain your ability to focus on your success first, and then decide on if and when you are going to lease your efforts to your friends for premium that you must earn a profit on. Capitalist mindset. A lot of people, oh, I'm not going to tax my friend. My friend ain't going to benefit from me then. My friend will give friendly advice. That's about it. If I invest time in talking to my friend, and I ain't going to give him that much time. I spend more time on this podcast than I spend with my friend. Hands down. Because this will benefit me and benefit everybody else that comes here. But listening to my friend bullshit, were they the same bullshit that they were doing a year before? That's not going to benefit none of us. I tell my friend 12 different times. First of all, 12. I should only have to tell you once, if twice at the most. If I tell my friend 12 different times that you fucking your life up, I ain't got time for that. You know what I mean? Those are not the kind of people you want in your entourage, because if you have an entourage of fuck-ups, you are the product of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. So if you have an entourage of fuck-ups, what does that make you? It makes you a fuck-up. Why? Even though you're the most responsible person in your group, if you are subsidizing and catering to the fuck-ups of the 5 people around you, you are fucking up, because you are taking extra money out of your pocket, bailing them out of jail, helping them with their DUIs, putting them on your car insurance to save the money on their insurance, making your car insurance go up, letting them use your shit and bringing it back with no gas in it, running off with all the resources out of your house, running all the resources out of your bank account, and you don't have enough money to grow. Yes, you're making more money than what you need, but all the extra money that you get goes to your friends, which means that you're renting your friends. They're showing up and they're being your friends because you're giving them money to be your friend. Fuck that. My friends should be paying me to stand next to me so that they can turn a profit while they stand next to me. There's no fucking reason why there's a situation where it's not mutual success amongst the group. Out of the 6 of us, if the 5 people around me are not investing in me, then I am doing something wrong. Because if they're going to get successful standing next to me, they're going to get paid standing next to me. They better make sure I get paid. Otherwise, I'm doing something wrong. So y'all got to pay attention to that. With that being said, that's all I got for y'all tonight. I want to thank y'all for coming to this and that. Special shout out to Michael and Steven. I really appreciate y'all and y'all's wisdom. You guys have not only learned, but y'all started teaching, and I'm very, very happy about that. Very proud of that. And I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground!